Bless up for tuning in to Project Cheney. Magic happens when you question everything. Conspirituality becomes reality, weirdness is welcomed, and it's okay to change your mind. Big up yourself.
I'm not even going to do it to you. There was a time, you guys, that was like my tongue-in-cheek favorite Christmas song. And now when I hear it, it is triggering, and it makes me want to eat bullets for breakfast. Hi, you guys. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. I hope you are finding time amongst your family, amongst your season, to sneak away, roll a joint, and hang out with me. Maybe you will find some solace in this crazy time of year. We celebrate Jesus' birth. We celebrate Santa coming down the chimney. And we do this all with a pagan tree in our living room. No wonder we are such a confused lot, huh? So what is new, you guys? Let me clear my throat. I'm going to have Matty Ray on this episode. I think it's going to be enlightening for you guys to have two members of an LGBTQ and how many other letters they want to add of the agenda, two humans who chose the avatars like we did, have a conversation like we do. And I'm going to talk more about that when I get into it, when I introduce the episode. But I'm excited to be here with you guys. I did not plan on doing this today. I planned on having a whole bunch of other stuff done, and I planned on doing 2 episodes, and I was like, who knows what I'm going to talk about. I don't want a whole bunch of Matty Ray fans to come over and, blow their fucking mind with whatever comes out of my yammer today. But, let's be authentic. If they're meant to stay, they will. And all of the opinions shared by me do not represent the opinions of Matty and his sweet, sweet white heart. Because I don't know. I can't guarantee I'm not going to get dark gray today. But who knows? I could get really white and I could get really touched. The first thing I want to talk about today, I want to give a shout out to the mommies out there, to all the thankless real heroes of this season. The people who really make sure the tree is found, the same people who are going to be cleaning up the needles of that tree, the same people who have to make sure every ornament is tediously wrapped, is the same person that has to unpack every ornament, the same person that has to go pick up all the lights, the same person that has to make sure the gifts are there on time. And there is a mom listening to this, maybe more than one, that has gifts that haven't arrived on time, that she did everything accordingly. She did everything like she was supposed to. And she has a disappointed child or husband or lover or something that doesn't have that gift in their hand. And it's not her fault. She's done everything in her power to make sure this day is magical. And the meals and the planning, the details, all the little things. And I know there's men out there that are doing these little things too. And I know there's couples that are doing these little things together to make them easier, and families that are all doing these little things. But I also know, just from being a childless woman, with all my lady friends that have these kids, Bumba Ross, the amount more work they have to do in December. No wonder it's so much for them. Moms probably don't get to relax until that tree is fucking out of the living room. That's why they're like, the 26th, this bitch comes downza. And then they need a couple days. And then maybe New Year's, they're like, yeah, you know what? I will go out tonight. I am going to get a babysitter and treat myself. They finally get their head back because they've been thinking about Christmas since they put the last stitch in the Halloween costume. Anyway, I think moms deserve a little kudos. Dads deserve a little kudos too. But dads, if we're being honest with ourselves, there is a whole bunch of shit that you don't even realize that lady did. You don't even realize the tape and the wrapping and the bows. You look around that house. Look around at that manger scene. That elf on a shelf. Look around at the carols. The little Christmas videos and movies that come out at that time. How did she even know? How did she know Rudolph was on TV right now? How does she know where all the neighborhoods are that have the lights? I don't know. But I do know. So maybe we should be spending a little less thanks on a fat bearded guy coming down this chimney and a little more thanks on the lady in the kitchen, making sure the day is just a little magical. Ho, ho, ho. And that's why we say ho, ho, ho. That's how you should go greet your mom in the kitchen right now. You should say, what up, ho, ho, ho? Just kidding. Just kidding. Are you guys sneaking away? You know how you have to do that? You're like with all your family and you're like, oh, I'm going to take the dog on a walk. And grandma's like, you don't have to walk the dog. The dog never goes on a walk. And you're like, it's cool. I don't mind. I always take walks where I'm from. But really, you're just like, good night, Grandma. Can I go smoke a bowl? Can I go smoke some marijuana? Does it have to be a whole show? Do you have to tell everyone in the room every time I step out? Thanks. Both my grandmas are passed on, but I understand. I get this life. Maybe you're listening to me now while you're sneaking off down the road. You're shivering behind the corner like a 15-year-old, just trying to get a hit off your joint. Why don't you stand up right now and just be like, you know what, Grandma? I smoke marijuana. It's not even that big of a deal. It's fine. I've paid my own bills for always. Don't worry about me. I'm going to be fine, Grandma. Grandma might be like, well, don't be stingy. Pass the tokie to the left and let Grandma take a hit of that sweet, sweet nug. Who knows? We are in the highest possible timeline. Maybe Granny needs to get high. Maybe she needs an edible. I do have friends that gave their granny edibles this holiday, and she thoroughly enjoyed herself. So maybe stop being stingy with your drugs. Maybe you're being miserable, hiding your weed from your family, and really what your family needs is some marijuana. That could be a Christmas miracle. Yeah, it might be uncomfortable. Things might be said, but you might laugh through them. And then the food will even be that much better. These are all my holiday ideas. Take them for what they're worth. Take them with a grain of salt. A grain of salt, if you will. I went and saw the Matrix movie. Do I want to give you guys a spoiler alert? Do you guys care? I hate saying spoiler alert, but I feel like I should. Yep, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert about the Matrix movie. I don't know how long I'm going to talk about it. Let me tell you whatever. Just fast forward if you don't want to hear about the Matrix movie. And this is how bad I am. So what is the main character? Jack? I don't know. I don't pay. Whatever. Keanu Reeves he wakes up in the Matrix again as a software designer who is creating a video game called The Matrix inside of the game. And he has the whole entire thing. The whole Matrix is explained. What happened in all the previous movies is that he lost his mind. And so there's a psychiatrist in the movie played by Neil Patrick Harris. And he coerces him to take blue pills, so he stays in the Matrix versus the red pills. You know, as I'm saying this, I'm so uninspired by this movie, and it's just was so easy and such low-hanging fruit. I don't even know how much I do want to talk about it. It depressed me of how and is it that my brain just is the amount of mazes and hoops that you would have to jump through at this point to make an intriguing Matrix movie to me that I was like, whoa, you got me. Would be pretty impossible probably, but it just felt like a whole convincing of like, no, you guys, you're friends with AI. The computers are here to help. They're sentient beings now. It was kind of like the whole soulmate twin flame idea of like, no, there isn't a Neo. The love between the two is what is the Neo. Like, if Trinity and Neo were kept close enough together always, but never touched, what always was between them would always be the source of the whole entire thing, not Neo. He isn't the Matrix. It's their love. Yeah, okay. I mean, it's fine. I'm into it. I also felt like I don't want to give away little details of it. And I really would like to philosophize about it with other people. So if you haven't joined my Telegram channel and you want to, maybe we can have a Matrix breakdown night where we all just geek out on the movie. But it's so bad that I'm sure whatever kind of geek out we did would be better than the movie itself. And I was like, does the actor Keanu Reeves have a contract where they have to pay him by the word? And so they only have him say, yeah, whoa, huh. It's really bizarre to me, the script they give him for this. And I also thought it was missed opportunity to have Jada Pinkett Smith in the movie with only old makeup on the whole time and never have her revert and use the Matrix to be like, whoa, look inside the Matrix, I'm young. Anyways, I guess I won't talk about this anymore. So if you haven't seen it, it's not just all lost in the sauce. And I feel like my brain is haywire, even trying to talk about it. Because it's just not even that deep. It's like chilling with my friends just saying what ifs is better than the Matrix movie. Even when we're not doing good what ifs. So yeah. I wrote on the side of my paper Aaron Russo because if you haven't, people ask me on a lot of podcasts, like, when did you wake up? What's the thing that you saw that woke you up? And it was this Aaron Russo interview. And it has been so long. It's actually Alex Jones interviewing Aaron Russo. And I'm always about the 80% truth, 20% lie, like the bottlenecks of misinformation. And this thing is kind of a bottleneck of misinformation, and it's so brilliant in a way how it's done because of course they're going to use Aaron Russo, somebody they use to revelation of their method. Like they used him to reveal their method over and over again in movies and Trading Places. He was a director. And so if you guys can find it, it might be like a 2-hour long interview. And it's one of Alex Jones's first interviews. And it's with Aaron Russo, but it is even in the 20 or even in the 80% true, 20% lie. That's where our tools of discernment just, it's not about what information you're taking in. Take in everything. You just have to, the more you take in, hopefully the better those tools get to start seeing the patterns of two truths and a lie. And I think that's always what they kind of do to us. And yeah, when we're under the illusion that the news is telling us the truth, it really, yeah, when we're under the illusion that the news is telling us the truth, that's how we get into this state of the world that we're in today. And I am not better than anybody else. I remember tons and tons and tons of my life where I believed Katie Couric and Matt Lauer and Peter Jennings and Brian Williams were all there to inform me. And that goes back to that John F. Kennedy speech that the media is not there to inform you. And if he was talking about it back then, where are we at now? So, Aaron Russo, if you guys want to check it out, that was my first red pill. And I haven't watched it again in a very, very, very long time. So it would be interesting to watch it now and see how much I agree with and how much is actually was just revelation of their method, where we are like right now today, like, huh, Aaron Russo just told us exactly what they were going to do and how much of it is complete nonsense. So, yeah, check it out. I'm going to have a sip of my water. I talked about all those things. If you guys head over to my Instagram, Cheney in Wonderland, I've been doing some Mary Queen of Scots digs. You know, I always give you a new Mary to look into. So Mary Queen of Scots. And I do talk about on some podcast interviews, I'm obsessed kind of with the rivalry between her and her cousin Elizabeth. And I also find it very curious that Queen Elizabeth II, right now, the Queen of England, is named, her namesake was Elizabeth I. If you look into the lore of Elizabeth, I'm kind of obsessed with her too. She never took a husband. She had Mary Queen of Scots decapitated. So in other parts of my digs with Geronimo and with skulls and with magic, I think some groups think if you retain the skull of certain beings, then you get to keep their magic. So Geronimo, it is said that the skull and bones have his skull, and he was a powerful medicine man. It's said that, like, when you look at Mary Magdalene in a bunch of art, she is always depicted with the skull in her hand. So, yeah, I think it's super interesting that not only Queen Elizabeth chose to decapitate her victims, but also her father chose to, Henry VIII. So, yeah, decapitation's definitely a way. You know, we always hear about silver bullets and stakes through the heart and these kind of ways to kill monsters and mythical beings. But I know that the news is always a lie, but they still have to reveal their method somewhere. So we live in a world of spiritual weirdness and shape-shifting and stuff that I believe science is trying to mimic. Science is just trying to mimic magic and sorcery that's always existed. And maybe sometimes it does a very, very, very close job, like something like a methadone or like a fentanyl. But no matter how synthetic close you get something, it still isn't the real thing. And, you know, like the oxytocin, pitocin, like you can get something super, super close, but it's still not the real thing. Anywho, yeah, I have written on here like drugs and pot and alcohol or holiday social lubricant, and how it's just so much easier to sit in those social settings for me. Somebody always assumes I'm very social because I can chat, and I do like chatting, and when it's around energies that I feel very comfortable with. And sometimes my family, I'm comfortable around some of them separately of other of them. But sometimes when they're all together in the same room, it is a lot for my empathetic energies to take. And sometimes when my nerves and my chatty and my clown and jokester come out, it's just because I'm completely, completely nervous. So I do like knowing that I'm going to drink some alcohol and I'm going to lower my vibe to here. I'm going to be able to be present around these people without absorbing all their energy and internalizing it and making it my own. And I also like marijuana. And I like stinky marijuana. Yeah, the pens are fun. But when the stink is there, a few things happen to us as adults. One, we have to sneak away with other adults and like, don't let so and so see. Don't let Uncle so and so see. Don't let Grandma see. It like forces us back into this little kid place of like, ooh, we should go walk in the woods. And then it forces us when we get back, we all kind of smell, but we're grown ups. We're allowed to go and smoke a joint. It kind of forces us to play along with whatever this weird narrative is of all being around our family. And, talking about all this family stuff as I sit here in my podcast studio talking to you, if you're alone today, and some of you out there are gratefully, happily, by choice, alone, you don't want anyone else around you. You might have 30 lovers. You might have a big family, but you are so, so, so grateful. You do not have to deal with anyone's energy in your space. You are in your PJs and your feet are all curled up by your ass and you're flipping through your channels, watching whatever the shit you want. You love that life. Some of you out there have lost people or by choice are a little heartbroken and you hear that song, I'll be home for Christmas, you can count on me. And you're like, oh, please, God. It's like Sarah McLachlan singing Arms of an Angel over Shaking Animals. It just hits you right in the feelers. You aren't alone out there. There is a lot of orphans, grown-up orphans that might have families of their own, but they don't have their parents either. And there is something about feeling like a grown-up orphan, that no matter how many kids you have or how big your family gets, you still miss that energetic energy of mom and dad, like what the television tells you mom and dad is, even though your mom and dad may have never been that energy. Like the same way we romanticize these perfect situations, we romanticize it even with parents and with family members and with the perfect Christmas we may never have. Whether if you're sitting with a whole huge family right now and there's wrapping paper all over your house, you're staring at this mess like what I wouldn't give to be laying naked on a bearskin rug by a fireplace with a man just taking me, or a woman, or whatever, a person just taking me by this fireplace and having sex all day long. I would swap this life for that life in a second. And then there's some person sitting on a high rise somewhere, smoking a joint by themselves with their perfect music playing in their perfectly clean house. And they are going to go out and have the nicest steak dinner you can ever imagine. And everything is going to be class and clean and vibes. And there might be a violinist playing White Christmas in the corner. And they would give anything to trade for your messy, stained, hot chocolate coffee table. And so it is all perspective. And it is, grass is always greener. But in a weird way, instead of coveting those opposite lives or wishing we were somewhere else, if you're really present with your friends and family and your loved ones, and you ask them how their Christmas was instead of liking their pictures on Facebook, if you actually call them later or text them, hey, bro, dude, do you want to have a glass of wine later and just chit chat? And if you listen to your loved ones and friends again and be present with them instead of just writing Merry Christmas on their Instagram and feel like you showed up somewhere. If you hear them and tell them and shut your eyes and just listen to them, you get to share that other part of life, and you get to be present, and you get to tell each other what was beautiful about each other's lives instead of being jealous, instead of being envious, instead of being ways of me trying to say, guess what, you guys? Are you cold right now? Well, it's 77 degrees in Florida. I could go to the beach if I wanted. And you could be like, oh, really? You could go to the beach? Must be nice. We're going to go skiing. Who's having a better Christmas? Or we both could sit and talk to each other and tell each other all the amazing things that I'm like, "Oh, that is so awesome that you have a huge fireplace and you have marshmallows and you're snowshoeing." And you could say, wow, that's so great that you have a margarita and you can go diving. These are, instead of being envious in the way that Facebook and these social media has created, we used to really be excited for each other. Somewhere in the world, we became like a world of, if you won the lottery, people around you would be jealous, instead of it couldn't happen to a better person. And that's how I think we should think of each other's lives and each other's situations. And we also can admire all the beauty and perfection of each other's situations and validate to each other when we're having a bad day in those situations. And this time of year, because of all the loss and because of all the love and because of all the high emotion, everybody needs a little bit more love, a little bit more care, a little bit more something that has nothing to do with a gift. Give your voice to people. Call them. Have a phone call. I hear it all the time. I have friends that they're like, Cheney, I don't talk to anyone on the phone but you. Why? You're so good at it. You're so good at it. And I have a lot of friends too that they talk on microphones like this and they don't talk on the phone to people. They give themselves of like this little bit of their vibration. They give it to their audience. And, you know, when you're a parent or a worker, even if you're childless and you're just showing up every day for the brutal 9 to 5 and you get off work sometimes, you're like, I literally have no words left. I don't want to hear my name again. I'm done. If you're a parent, you're like, if I hear the word mom one more time, I'm eating bullets for breakfast. That's it. I'm done. But that should show you how important your vibration is and how much the people around you love to hear it. And they just want to sit and chit chat with you. I find it a lot. I notice it when I go and I hang out with my sister or my other friends with kids. And when we're talking and cutting up and laughing, the kids always end up in the room. They always end up around us. It's not because we have all the best toys in the world. It's not because we're sitting in a ball pit. It's because vibration's so important. And sitting and sharing the vibration's important. Not just in song, singing Silent Night, or the worst Christmas song ever, you guys. Hark to the bells, high sunny bells, it's like a hall of mirrors, but it's voices. Whew. Gives me a little bit of anxiety just to think about it. Okay. What else? I got off on a tirade from social lubricants. I hope this podcast today is a social lubricant. I wrote on here that Morpheus really felt like the devil to me in this version of the Matrix. Not to wrap it back around to the Matrix, but who knows how many more times I'll do that, because I reflected on this movie a few times after I watched it, as bad as it was. And this new version of Morpheus is Morpheus mixed with Agent Smith. But he just felt like the devil to me. And whatever the devil is, whatever that evil, kind of seductive, sexy energy is, not just, so I like that Luciferian devil. Like, it just seems like a whole type. And that's how he felt to me. And once I felt it in this character, I felt it through all the Morpheus of all the Matrix, where it's like the future proves the past of it all. And I saw this and then I was like, holy shit. What if Morpheus was the devil in all the Matrix? This changes the entire philosophy for me. And there's also a scene in it where they're on a set. Like there's a movie screen behind it, and then they're on a play set. And it's like a set of a set, like a reset. And it's just more proof to me, like right in our face with their great reset. Yeah, I want to know what you guys think. I can't wait till you watch it. Oh, let's talk about this. PCR shortages, flight cancellations, nurse shortages. Dun, dun, dun. The news. No one can fly. I'm going to tell you stuff in common sense. This is not going to be magical. This is totally going to be 3D chatter. All the flights are being canceled because they laid off or fired all their employees, or their employees left for the future mandatory vaccines that were being implemented by the airlines. So it didn't stop all the airlines, even though they knew they were going to have staffing shortages when they sold the tickets a few months back. It didn't matter because all the money sold is still going to go into their fourth quarter on the books for Wall Street and all those weird little fucking numbers they push around. And then the first quarter will come around when they give everyone their refunds, or they won't give refunds. They'll just force people to have airline tickets for free, which will cause it even harder to book flights in the future, so they can cause more panic, so they can raise the prices, and it'll be a domino effect of stuff to go on. So the reason there's shortages is because they already knew they had staffing shortages because of all this communist regime bullshit they're trying to do in these big companies. One, there's PCR test shortages because everywhere you fucking go, everywhere you travel, if you're a person that wants to travel to your family, you have to get a PCR test. If you have a cunty, uptight family, can you just get a PCR test before you come? We're all going to have our negative PCR test before we do Christmas dinner because, grandma's going to be there and we don't want grandma to catch the COVID. So there's a PCR shortage because everyone's forcing this, and that's why you can't find PCR tests anywhere. Ridiculous. Isn't it funny that you can get all the vaccines in the world that you want for free, but PCR tests at Walgreens? Okay, that's another conspiracy for another day. There's a nurse shortage because of the same reason there's airline employee shortages. They laid all these fucking people off, or they got fired because they weren't going to get the fucking vaccine. So now you're seeing the downfall of all that stuff. Here we are with seasonal. You know what? There used to be this time of year, I regurgitate it, but if it's your first time here, the reason it's called a cold is because you would get it when it was fucking cold out. And the human body does something really strange when it's trying to regulate. So when it's really cold outside and then you have a warm house environment, it happens to us in Florida in the summertime, but it's the opposite because we walk into air conditioning from really hot outside. So you get sick because your body's going hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. Let me unwrap myself from all these clothes. Let me wrap it back up. Let me unwrap myself from all these clothes. It's just a little organic computer trying to figure what the fuck's going on. And now you have all these probably light bulbs in your house that are all LTE light bulbs, and they're all spiraled up with 5G. Take those light bulbs out of your house. And you know what? Plugging in that Christmas tree, I bet all those light bulbs are weird. Who knows what's going on the light bulbs on your Christmas tree? I just thought of that just now. Not to put fear into your pagan tree, but just thinking about it. Oh, shit. Okay. I ranted about that. You know what? I have light bulbs on here. I have it on here because I wanted to... I love Donald Trump. I don't like anyone talking about vaccines. Anyone. I don't care who it is. My mother herself, my wife, Donald Trump. I don't care. I'm not getting a vaccine. If the Mashiach himself comes down and tells me to get the vaccine, no, it's not happening. I'm not injecting myself, okay? It's not happening. So I don't understand what you guys are waiting around for an ex-president to tell you to get one, not get one. I don't understand. So DJT, he brought back the other light bulbs to bring it back around to those light bulbs. We can get an old-fashioned light bulb, and that matters with 5G if you're a 5G person. DJT became the postmaster general for a day and took it away, so Amazon not only wasn't delivering our ballots, not only was making sure that we weren't getting our food, but was also going to freeze up our fucking Christmas. They were the original reason that our post office fucking collapsed anyway, so he made it sure that Amazon couldn't do that. Operation Warp Speed, in my opinion, if, as a conspiracy theorist, as an OG black pill, for 20 years from watching that Aaron Russo video, I knew the New World Order was coming. I could have pretty much guaranteed you it was coming in 2020, 2021, because that's what the whole Agenda 201, Agenda 2020, Agenda 2021, we know this as conspiracy theorists. We knew this were coming. So if there were some cabal of good people, us with more power, we couldn't stop the New World Order. It was a world order. It wasn't a United States order. It wasn't a Russian order. It wasn't a Brazilian order. It wasn't a Chinese order. It was a world order. So if we knew this world order was coming, that they put in place for all these years, maybe we couldn't stop it. But maybe we could make a couple things happen to speed it the fuck up. And maybe me coming out and saying, hydroxychloroquine, look, I got it. Hydroxychloroquine forces them to release all these fucking quote unquote cures. So it messes up their game theory. It forces them to act reckless. What would have taken 5 years for these vaccines took 600 days. And I know that's crazy, and I'm not getting one whether Donald Trump tells me or not. And if you're sitting around waiting for, if like Donald Trump saying that made you go get one or not get one, reevaluate. Who are you waiting for? As long as Dr. Fauci tells you to get one, you're not gonna. But the second if he's like, stop getting vaccines, you're gonna go get one. Then stop putting your opinion on all these other people. Don't put your opinion on me. Research it for yourself. But that's what I think Operation Warp Speed was. I'm not making excuses for anything. I pay attention to game theory. I've read The Art of War. I see all this stuff. One thing I do. Oh, even the Bill Gates meat, you guys. Remember the push of all the fake meat, all the Boca Burger, whatever, Beyond Burger, all the stuff at Burger King, McDonald's, all that fake meat. And then they tried to shut down all the meat plants during Trump's presidency, but he didn't let that happen either. If it was up to the powers that be, the Gates Maxwells of it all, the Gates and Maxwells, look into Bill Gates' mom. She's a Gates Maxwell. They're all related. So if you look into this, we were all going to be eating genetically modified meat, sticking ourselves up with a genetically modified vaccine. They have these 5G towers everywhere, spraying stuff on us. And then anything that we take in from social media, from the algorithm at all, from the television is just a forced algorithm. And I cannot reiterate it enough. I'm so over. Look back to oldest me. Tucker Carlson, always bad. If they're on TV, nothing free in Hollywood. I don't understand this regurgitation of like, we got to put somebody else on a pedestal. Oh, we look like fools. Now we got to kick them down. Let's put somebody else on a pedestal. Oh, we look like fools. We got to kick them down. Stop putting humans on pedestals. Stop picking dates. Just keep theorizing. Just keep researching. Just keep building a squad of people you trust. And if you're somebody out there and you're like, well, I don't trust anyone. Well, you know what? If you don't trust anyone, you're probably not really worthy of trust. You probably don't understand what that emotion's really like because deep down you're always like seedy in your brain. You're always trying to get one up on people in your brain. So you always think everyone's out to fuck you because you're always out to fuck everybody else. So maybe it's not them. Stop projecting. Anyways, that was my little stick up for Donald Trump. And if you want to, on 1/6 for my little anniversary of my little insurrection resurrection, I am going to Palm Beach, Mar-a-Lago. And if you're in the area, I think you should go too. I don't know what we're going to do. Maybe we can all meet somewhere for drinks after. I don't even know what's going to happen. But I do know that DJT will be giving a speech somewhere. And if we get enough of us there, he's always really good about showing up. And I live on the timeline where I just say aloud, hey, we're going to do this. And then he does this because we wag the tail. We wag the tail and he works for us. He's still my president, which means he works for me and he's a big, huge puppet. And so we just say here, hey, DJT, why don't you do a drive-by on us in Mar-a-Lago? And if you want to, you can meet me there and we can have an insurrection, resurrection. This time the storm is tropical and maybe there'll be a lot of other fun people there as well. Maybe some members of the Coven, maybe some members of Project Cheney Telegram chat, maybe some people who we can't seem to sit down and have an interview, but we can hang out in person. So, yeah, I don't want to put anyone on blast, but I do think it'll be a really good time. And I know how many of us in a flash from this exact moment on got to DC on 1/6. So why go to the freezing cold again? Come to Florida. Let's all hang. Let's get litty titty and be patriotic and shit. Let's see. I yelled at you about all that stuff. And I know some people say, don't say you yelled at us. I never feel like you yelled at us. Okay, I didn't. Not yelling at you. I say this on my show, but I think it's worth reiterating. Yes, your Second Amendment's important, but please, please, please research your First Amendment. Please. It's why your Second Amendment's there. It's so you can gather. It's so you can worship as you see fit. It's so you can speak freely. It's important, and it's why you have a gun. And it's important that we stick up for these rights in each other. And I know everybody thinks they have their way to God. And it's super important that you have your faith and you find your path to God. But I don't think tearing down other people's path to God is important at all. And that can't be your calling. And I think you have to remember the First Amendment. When you call yourself a patriot, you have to let other people worship as they see fit as well. And obviously, that's not tearing the face off babies and Pizzagating shit. But there is still some hate that I see that goes on in people that call themselves truthers, where I just think, you let hate in your heart, whatever you believe in. There is a darkness. And you can call the darkness whatever you want to, but that darkness thrives on hate and fear. So do what you can to take that hate and fear out of your heart. That's my holiday message. I have a whole nother sheet. I might do another episode, but who knows? I'm going to, for sure, attach Matty Ray's episode to this. So it's probably best I stop talking now. Let me quit while I'm ahead, you guys. You might be freezing. Your joint might be over, or maybe you've lit another. Maybe you've invited your crazy uncle that no one ever believed for the last few decades. And now all of a sudden everything he said is true. Maybe you invited him to listen to this podcast as well. And this is an interesting one. I wanted to talk to Matty Ray for a while. Back when I had Conspiracy Chicken, I followed his account, and it was touching to me to see people all over the world give a shit about our country and give a shit about our elections and give a shit about what it meant as far as the idea of what America was. And so just knowing another person in the UK, and Matty wasn't the only one, but definitely one of the bigger accounts. And in the life that we've lived over the last 600 days and longer, we've all had these huge journeys. And I've had friends of mine get doxxed, and I've had friends that have had to come to terms with what their opinions would mean as far as their families were concerned, and what their opinions of a president might mean as far as their jobs were concerned, and what their opinions of a vaccine might mean as far as their friend groups were concerned. Something being in a group of LGBTQ, blah, 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 blah. And, we keep getting forced in this group. That's also every group. You're a black person. It doesn't mean you're part of the BLM agenda. You might be a white person. It doesn't mean you're a part of whatever kind of blank agenda. You might be a woman. It doesn't mean you're a part of a feminist agenda. You might be a gay person. It doesn't mean you're part of an LGBTQ agenda. And it's interesting for me to sit across from somebody who I'm a lot closer to in ways we think, ways we view ourselves, and maybe the way we view females. And you could say the only difference between us is that Matty has testosterone. I don't think that. I think we live in a place where you might not really know until you know, or you might not really know until you take the time to ask, or it might not be your privilege to get to know until you get to know the person. But I think when you look at us from the outside and think maybe how different we are, how some little small choice could maybe make me a lesbian and maybe make Matty a trans man. I'm grateful we live in a world that neither of us are killed for being the people that we are. I'm also grateful we live in a world that both of us can talk about across from each other. What of our sexuality do you think is a vax injury? And it doesn't mean everybody's sexuality and weirdness and spectrum, but it is nice that we're in a place that we can talk about it. And it is nice looking across from somebody who is becoming their most authentic self every day. And they're allowing me to become my most authentic self every day. And we sat across from each other, on Zoom, and we just met each other for the first time. And I'm really excited that I have a new friend. And I'm really, really excited to know that there's people coming to my country that I love, that see and love what I see and love. And maybe it's just a romantic idea far, far off in the back, like the Christmases on the movies that we'll never have, or the relationships we think we won't ever be in. Or maybe it takes just two weirdos like us being in love with a country like this to make it happen. And if you've listened to me this long and you relate to me, and I know I have lesbians out there who listen, and I know I have a lot of women out there who listen, and I know I have a ton of men out there who listen. We do live in these binaries very frequently. And sometimes we allow something like a Me Too movement to come in and totally devalue the importance of women being able to say that this kind of shit happens in a workplace. And this kind of shit happens at jobs that I've had, and in my school, and in my college, and in my neighborhood. This kind of stuff happens, but now we're not allowed to talk about it because it's all Me Too. Well, there's a lot of stuff that agendas do where they almost pollute things so we can't talk about them anymore. Like BLM's made it that we aren't allowed to talk about systemic racism, even though we all know it's real. The LGBTQ agenda, the trans agenda has made it so we can't talk about these real things, even though they're real. And so back to those tools of discernment, it's just as important for you to use them about people and you to use those tools with our journeys. And you maybe to just take the time in the exact same way that you're going to take the time to call your friend or family member instead of just liking their Facebook page. Maybe take the time to really get to know someone instead of researching all these agendas. And maybe take even more time to not make a person wear the coat of that agenda. Anyway, I love you guys. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah, happy witchy full moon, solstice-y magic is book vibes. If I missed your holiday, Scientologist, I do apologize. Whatever way makes you your best version of yourself, whatever way makes you closer to source energy and good, whatever way makes you lightest gray and closer to white magic. And I mean that by a magic and not a color of skin. I love you guys. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Project Cheney. And it's taken a little while, but I believe in kismet and divine timing. And I finally have Matty Ray, the UK Patriot, sitting down with me to go through all the perils of the last few years of living through the New World Order, but maybe our lifetimes of living through the New World Order. So welcome to Project Cheney.
Thank you for having me. It's about time.
I know.
Like we both had our own little mix-ups, but we're here now.
I really, with my guests, it always happens when it's meant to, and
yeah, for sure.
I think in the world that we both circulate in a little bit, it has seemed a little like hot news topic after hot news topic after where every day I'm like, if we have to wait and talk a little about the Ghislaine trial. If we have to wait and talk a little about Ukraine, if we have to, and it seems like our real life world is a conspiracy every day now.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's just one thing after the other at this point, and we're getting to the point where it's beyond insanity. Like, think back to all the years you've been alive, right? Have you ever seen such a circus as what's going on right now?
Never.
It's insanity. Like, all the politicians are going cuckoo, like. And the people who are going along with it at this point, like, it's quite concerning, you know, because they're really throwing thing after thing out at the moment that is just ludicrous. And these people were just obeying every command.
Did you ever, how long have you been looking into conspiracies, first of all?
Okay, so when I went fully into it was when I properly woke up at the beginning of 2020, but I always looked at the odd conspiracy before that, you know, the Avril Lavigne being cloned, how they killed her, and also the first conspiracy I think I ever read about was the Haiti zombies. I don't know if you've heard about that one.
No.
Okay, so I was looking at this when I was like 14, and I really did believe it. So I don't know what your beliefs are on black magic and stuff, but I think it's very true. Like, these people in power are witches and warlocks for a start. You know, they do satanic rituals and stuff. And in Haiti, there's a tradition where when someone's relative or loved one dies, they have to actually guard the body every night for 2 weeks, because these voodoo people will re-dig up the grave. And there were these factory type places in Haiti where they had people just working continuously, but they weren't actually alive anymore. That was what the conspiracy was. But
Ah.
there was pictures and stuff, and they looked really real. And the more I read about this stuff now as well, these spells and stuff, I think it probably was.
Do you think, kind of in a way of like, would you even need a robot army if you had an undead army?
No,
Like a
probably not.
necromancer?
And one of the things, I don't know if you saw my post the other day, but the dream I had about the metaverse.
Go into it.
Okay, so I had this really crazy dream. I left some stuff out of the post I made actually as well, which I'll go into now. But I'll tell you from beginning to end what my dream was and how I
And where
think
can
it
everyone
ties
find
in.
that post? Even we'll
On
talk
my
about it.
Instagram account, it's Matt Ray, and I also made a thread about it on Twitter on the same account, it's Matt Ray. So the dream started. I was walking down this really dingy kind of alleyway, and I overheard people talking while I was walking past them in the dream, and they were talking about how they had regrets. They wished they could still be on Earth because this is a trap. And they were, one of them said, yeah, did you watch that Kristen Wiig movie Downsizing, where they traded their life for these really big houses if they got shrunk down? That's literally what happened to us. And I remember walking past in the dream, and I haven't even seen that movie, so that was what made that really strange, that I heard that be spoken, because I haven't watched it. And the next thing, I saw these gates saying the full experience, and when I went through it, there were people wearing these all white suits that were head to toe, okay, like a boiler suit kind of thing. And I watched a guy, he just completed one of the challenges, like Ready Player One type stuff, like it really was. And there was this black tablet standing out of the ground, and he put his hand on it, and as soon as he did, it immediately knew who he was, told him what prize he had won, and then the head part of his boiler suit turned into this futuristic motorbike helmet that had coding going all across it and could see things that the human eye couldn't see. So then the camera in my dream kind of panned out again, and I was taken to a completely different side of the metaverse. And this is where the elites and the rich people were. Okay, now I saw rich women with their children, and there were like jaguars and lions and stuff walking amongst them, because it's like a tropical paradise, but the animals won't harm them because they're not real. You know, it's the metaverse. They can code them to be safe. So these people were living in this like tropical paradise, and almost like Austin Powers, there was this giant volcano, and inside it were these men wearing all black, and there were screens in there. And in this volcano, the elites were able to like zoom into any person they wanted in the metaverse, right? And track what they were doing. And they were scanning these cameras, and they were recruiting people who were building influence in the metaverse to become an elite like them. And then the dream got really creepy. Like, you know, like how we see elites of animal masks and stuff. They like to wear these like animal masks. I saw a man in a flamingo hat, and he was wearing a black suit with a red tie. And I saw him, I discovered in the dream that the elites were still using Earth. They were still using it, and only they could. The people in the metaverse at this point could not go back. They were trapped, right? So this guy walked through a portal, the elite, and when he walked to the other side, back on Earth, he was standing in this like glass building, and he was looking out, and there were people, okay, all wearing Viz jackets, but they were like in a zombie mode. Their eyes were like in their heads, and they had the, you know, the Neuralink on their head, and they were building something for the elites, but they didn't know they were doing it because in their mind they were in the metaverse. And it reminded me of, did you ever watch the tunnel opening for that CERN tunnel in Switzerland?
Yes.
Doesn't that sound like, you know, when you see the workers and they're jolting, you know, that bit near the end of it when the Antichrist came? And I'm thinking, have I been given a premonition in my sleep? Is this what's going to happen? And I need to warn people.
I've had similar, not to the extent, but when you say certain things in your dream. Have you seen the movie Bliss?
No.
You should totally watch the movie Bliss. It's interesting because if you wanted to look at it in the 3D, you could be like, it's just talking about addiction. But if you take it to the level of the places that we're willing to expand our brain to and think about and know the levels of control, or even they can lose us now while we exist in this world. And how you're saying they're shrinking us down from like this giant size to a little size. So we take in less resources just to exist energetically. So if they can take our little size now and shrink it down into a cocoon-like state, implant whatever vision they want to in our brain of fear, so they can dictate the super high love, super high fear, super high love, and then they can ride on this like loosh pole without even having to now feed us beef or give us sunlight or any of this, because we can just lay in this cocoon like state of perpetual like chrysalis. Then they can just ride our loosh like we are batteries for them. And I think when I've had downloads of the idea of things like Candy Crush and zombies, or where we're just flicking and doing these like menial
mind-numbing stuff.
Yeah, where you're just sliding through Facebook, where you're not even emotionally attaching to these humans in your life anymore. You're just thumbs up, thumbs down, serotonin, thumbs up, thumbs down. It's almost like teaching us this menial task of reading our sensors up, down, looshing, little loosh, so they can get these algorithms of us. I keep saying that people are confusing synchronicity with algorithms. And that's what they need to put a big, huge tool of discernment in, even with their quote unquote angel numbers. Well, you're seeing angel numbers all the time because you won't get off your fucking phone. Like, you won't get off your phone. You're literally living in the metaverse already. It has you attached like an octopus. And there are real synchronicities in the world that are quite magic. And there's some that exist because of this beautiful little device, because we're so powerful, we take over their black octopus. But I think people really need to own their power. And I do think we're having premonitions and downloads, and some people's superpowers are dreams, like a crystal ball. And are you
I agree with
dreamer?
you. No, here's what's really weird. Like, for a long time, I didn't have any dreams. And then all of a sudden, the last few nights, I've had the most vivid dreams. Like what I just told you there, like, that is like a movie going on in my head, you know, like how vivid is that? All these things I saw, and I woke up, and I actually woke up speaking. I startled Jude because I woke up saying, if we don't fix 2020, there's no 2024. I was talking in my sleep.
I keep having this other weird thing about 2020 where even the number, I've had kind of, sometimes I've had glimpses of futuristic things or vibes. But then my logic, because I never believed it until the last year of my life, my logic just had to find the book or find the passage or find the thing that made whatever I saw make sense. So it's inevitably I became a conspiracy theorist, because I'm like, some of the things I see or feel don't make any sense in what the history books are telling me. So in the last like year of this whole quick download of how crazy everything is, and like you were saying, these witches, these warlocks, these things, we have to start believing in our superpowers, because they're using them against us. So if you aren't like, you're like, shit, I'm getting a download of a dream, and I'm having like Christian friends of mine tell me people like the children will start getting downloads of these things that don't make any sense to them.
Yeah, I mean, in the Bible, it says that in the end days, your sons and daughter will have visions, and they will prophesy, and they will dream dreams. And I've had some crazy experiences myself recently. Like, I made a video the other day because the most beautiful thing happened. I've become really in touch with my faith. The more I research this stuff, the more I realize these people worship Satan, and the more I turn to Jesus. Like, it's just the way it is, you know. Like, I was raised an atheist. My family are not religious at all, never have been. And for me, I'm actually thankful for that, because I found my faith my own way because of that. But what happened the other night, I was laying in bed, like every now and then this stuff gets intense, and I was thinking about how Satan is literally everywhere right now. You know, he's got his mitts in everything. And I was just thinking in my head, I was like, how do I be righteous? How do I do God's work and like not let myself get tainted by these things trying to attack me? Because I definitely believe in demonic attacks as well. I've definitely suffered from them a lot since I started speaking out, like things I can't explain it, but like, I'm sure you've probably gone through psychic attacks. When you start speaking the truth, these things sometimes come at you from nowhere. You don't know where they come from. And I was just thinking about those things, and I was like, how do I, you know, do things right? How do I do God's work? And I got Matthew 5:8 in my head, and I went to sleep remembered it in my head, and I opened the Bible the next day, and it said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." And honestly, it moved me, because I was like, okay, they're telling me that it's okay because I'm pure in heart and I'm doing the best I can in a dark situation. And like, it made me want to make the video, because there's a lot of people who live in fear right now. With all the horrible things going on, people are so scared, like not necessarily scared of the virus. I'm on about the people who are awake, who are maybe black pilling and worried that there's no hope. And I thought maybe those words would mean a lot to those people, because they know that this life's temporary, but what's going to come after, like, if you're on the side of good, if you're making a difference, or you just are aware of this stuff and you accept God, there is hope for you. Like, however you see God, like, everyone's got their own different ways of seeing it. Okay. Like, and they've all got their different opinions, but if you're pure and you're not following all this evil, then there's hope for you. Like, and it just meant a lot to me when I got that message.
Do you know how sometimes, regardless of your faith, God is so great, your little human brain can't conceptualize how great he is to how many beings and entities and energies. He's great too. And if our whole goal is to be, when I look at every religious book, and I look at all of them, they all make God binary in a way to me that I believe God is ever expanding through our authenticity. So our authenticity feels awkward sometimes, to live in this pure idea of love and whoever we are, with our vision of how we see the world, and these awkward actions and weird like gifts, or like, I'm going to call this person because I just thought of a bunny and a butterfly and it reminds me of them, and then I call them, and holy shit, they needed to hear from me. These weird synchronicities and these weird, everybody has their own way. And I think sometimes the fear of it, we fear our way being wrong because somebody else is seeking God in a different way than us. And I just think God is so great. You are supposed to live purely how God, because we all get a thing, like, I had it put heavy on my heart that, like, I didn't even believe in, I mean, I went through the whole walk of things, but God just put it heavy on my heart. You can't ever put that mask on. Like, I never even got to the vaccine. The God just put it heavy on my heart at, like, the first time I tried, like, you're never allowed. Sorry, you're just going to have to stand in your truth and fight that fight from this day of 14 days to flatten the curve. You're never even allowed to flatten the curve. Like, I was like, like a little, and I was a conspiracy theorist for decades, but I was still like, okay, I'll 14 days to flatten. And it was like, I'm not allowed to do this.
I had a similar kind of thing happen, like, before I went viral, before I even knew what was going on, when COVID first, like, come out, people, for a couple of weeks, some people were just in a really, like, what's going on kind of thing, like, it was a confusing situation. Like, no one had witnessed anything like this before. And my kind of realization that things went right was the first time I went into the grocery store since the pandemic had happened. And I walked into my local store to see all the shelves empty, to see an old man struggling to find something for his dinner because people had been so greedy they'd wiped it all off the shelf, and he was picking up, he had literally a tin of beans in his hands, or it was like a tinned chili, and he was weighing up the options because that was all that was left. And I literally, like, I just went, no, this isn't right. This shouldn't happen. Like, there's something.
Humanity in a week.
Yeah,
like,
I thought it was sickening, and I was the same with the mask. Like, I didn't want it. I didn't want the mask. The one time I was forced to wear one was when I had to go to the doctors, and they literally refused to see me for any other reason. And then the more I woke up, the more I started wanting to avoid doctors, and I wouldn't be seen dead in a hospital now. I tell you that, because they're killing people in there. Like, and that's where it's so backwards. We're meant to be able to know that if we're sick, we can go to hospital and they're going to make us better. But instead, they're either going to murder you by putting you on a ventilator right now, or they're going to give you a treatment that will fix you in the short term but mess you up in the long term.
Do you think we started to have faith in medicine? Where this word faith, it's so important. And to me, it's super important that I don't know what your route to God is, and I don't want to judge your route to God. But I do believe you have to have faith that you're attached to more than you and that you're super powerful and can draw on that energy. And it's there with you and protects you. And it will tell you what ritual you have to go through for it, what route you have to go through, when you need to seek different routes. And I think we spend so much time judging other people's routes. And we need to just spend time clearing out our own with a machete. So that way, when somebody else, when we turn around and look behind us and realize somebody else is on our path, that it's clear for them, clearer than it was for us. And not this whole messy thing of fear and hate and fear and hate. And I think every single person has a little piece of the puzzle of God, not just every religion.
Sure. So this is the thing that you're completely right. I think the downside is a lot of people have the wrong angle when it comes to religion. A lot of people are too forceful with it, and they come across as arrogant. And when you're forceful with people, they're not going to want to hear. This is the thing. But like with me, like what I've learned from my own journey is I went through a childhood and an early adult life of depression, suicide attempts, thinking the world was wrong, never knowing why, seeing my friends better off than me, not having as close a relationship with my family as I'd like to. I kind of felt like the black sheep of the family. And then I woke up to the truth about the world. And when you wake up to the truth, you discover God, because you realize these people worship Satan. And the moment I realized that, I can honestly say that God changed my life, because look at me. I'm now married and I'm living in the USA. I've got some lovely patriots all around the world who are the best family I've ever had. Like I haven't even met half of them in person, but the love they have gave me is it's pure, because you can feel it. When love's real, when you can feel it. Like the people genuinely care about me. People who I don't even know about, like some people who follow me, like they care about me, and from my own experience, I can say that until you find God, you're existing. But when you find God, you're living. That's my experience anyway.
That's beautiful. I totally relate to that. We have, I don't want to just put the we term on you, and maybe we'll get into it. There's a term in the community that we use of holding lines. And it is a way of being these far away friends that you have on the internet, that some of them you just type to, and some of them you start voice messaging with, and some of them end up on the phone, and some of them have your real number, and then some of them have your real address. And like all these stages of some people that you've never even heard their voice. You don't even know what color skin they are, what religion they are, what sexuality they are. There's just an avatar out there has been holding the line for you in this way of our bleakest days.
Literally.
Just to stay alive sometimes.
I see people pop up in my comment section who I still recognize their username from when I first ever went viral. And like, that was 10 accounts ago. And these people still find you. Like, and that's true loyalty, like they care about what you have to say. And like some of the DMs I've received, like, we don't realize when we put this information out there how much it can actually impact people and how much further it can actually go. Like, we type a post out, we expose some truth, but then that person who sees that post shows it to that person, and that person shows it to that person. Like, we don't realize the ripple effect it has at getting the truth out there. And I've had DMs like from people saying, you were a big part of my awakening. And it moves me every single time, because we forget about that, like when you've been doing it for a while, we don't realize the effect that the truth has with people when it resonates. And I hope more people hear what I'm saying right now if they're posting truth, and it helps them realize that they're making such a difference without even knowing it.
Yeah. And it's gifts unlock gifts. And so when you're posting truth only resonates. It only goes one direction. So once it's there, and you might not get everything right, but guess what? It's not going to resonate forever. The things that are true will, and they'll resonate with you. I grow and change. I leave all my mistakes up so people can see that my opinion changed and how it molded and how it grew. And I think it's okay for us to stand. I think it's okay for us to change our mind. I think we used to be great philosophers, and this is how we expanded God as well. And I think it's quite beautiful when I'm lucky enough to have someone just reach out to me in a way and tell me either how lonely they were or how, oh my God, you just put something into words that I've been thinking about for a blank amount of time. And it feels, the more I give credit to that, it's not me. I'm just a very lucky instrument with a golden throat chakra. And I love that I get the ability to plug in and to the divinity and the whole. And sometimes I say something magical, and the less I take credit, the more I get the gift. And the more I meet people that unlock a energy of like, oh, a church is going to happen between us today. Like something special is going to happen because this person's open-minded and their heart chakras are open, and I can feel it all the way from here. Like I'm in Florida and you're in Arizona, and I'm like, hey, this is a friend.
Literally, like this is the thing as well. I think once you're awake, and I'm going to emphasize that, not woke, but once you're awake, it definitely makes you an empath as well. Like you can, like you were saying just now, like you can feel the energy of the person you're talking to, and when you know that you're communicating with someone who stands for the exact same things as you, it resonates on a vibration like you can't even comprehend. Like for example, my marriage with Jude, like I met her through this movement, you know. I was already viral for quite a while when she made her video.
I'm going to totally go through it. This is what my Jamaican friends say. They say, stick a pin, which is stick a pin in that. And so you said you're in America. Yeah. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in England, the south of England. They are very brainwashed there. I'm just going to lay that down. Although I have hope. I mean, the protest on Saturday looked absolutely beautiful. 100,000 people apparently. So I think the tide is finally going to turn in England. I'm quite concerned at how long it's taken because the Queen obviously is in power and she's as evil as it gets. So
you killed the Queen. The Queen's been on ice. They're just waiting for the day.
I'm sure she's been dead for a long time. And I think she was dead in 2020, and I will back up why I think that. Tradition in England, Christmas Day, the Queen at, I think it's 12 p.m. every Christmas Day, she always does a Queen's speech. And it's one of the biggest traditions we've got because, you know, she's our monarch and she talks about her year.
You're talking to the right gal. I am a Diana nerd. I am Elizabeth from the first, the Henry VIII. I am Anne Boleyn. Like I geek with it. So go through it.
So she always does this speech, and in 2020, Channel 4 announced that they were going to be doing a CGI Queen's speech instead, using deep fake technology. They openly said it. They openly said the Queen would be deep fake, and I was thinking, hold on, right? Even with COVID supposedly running rampant, like they're saying, when the Queen does her speech, it's just her in a chair with a camera in front of her. There is no risk of her catching anything. So why would you use a fake Queen unless she's not there? And then the other things that made no sense was December 2019. Allegedly, a lorry had crashed into the gates of Buckingham Palace, knocked the emblem off. Well, the emblem still isn't there now. This is 2 years later. The emblem is still off the gates. Now, if it was knocked off, right, the first thing that would be done is they'd get that fixed because it's Buckingham Palace. You would not let that emblem, and it was the unicorn. It was quite an important one, you know, it was the unicorn. You would not let that be off for so long. And then this bloke called...
Unseal.
And then there was the rumours of... Joseph Gregory Harlot, this New Zealand man who claims he's the rightful monarch and that the throne was taken from him. Okay, now he was saying this at exactly the same time. And he had documents stating why he was the rightful king, why they were illegitimate, including family trees, which showed that Elizabeth was actually the artificial insemination of Winston Churchill. And the reason why is in the 1800s, apparently the British monarchy was going bankrupt. So the Rothschilds approached them and said, here's a deal. We give you money, and in return, we get to provide your royal heirs from now on. So since the 1800s, the monarchy, so the Windsors, are completely illegitimate. They should have never been on the throne. And he sent these documents. He sent these documents off, and nobody contested it during the time. Now, I don't know if the guy's a fraud, whether he is or not, I have no idea, but it is weird about the emblem, and it's very strange.
You said something interesting with the Winston Churchill thing. I just found this out this week, and I am a Diana nerd.
Yeah.
I had no idea that the Spencers and the Churchills were the same family. And that blew my mind. Literally, the two most highest ranks of that whole family are Lady Diana and Winston Churchill. So the idea that you just said to me, the Queen's is Winston Churchill's heir, and then Diana, because they had no rightful bloodline to England at all. Diana is the first. Her kids in that bloodline is the first that had rightful heir back to that throne, because they say her bloodline goes back to King Arthur. This is a whole different, like, that's the original Sword in the Stone, was just inseminating that bloodline again. But I definitely think that is mind-blowing if it's back to the Winston Churchill of it all, and then somewhere in a bloodline both sides, because we know it's very common for them to marry their family members, and they want to keep their blood as pure as possible. I always tell my audience, like, everything they tell us in fiction is the real and everything on the news is fake. So all Game of Thrones, that whole brothers marrying sisters and that kind of thing is super real. So Winston Churchill, and even the name Churchill.
I mean, all you've got to do is look at a lot of these family trees, right? And a lot of people who you would think are just celebrities, they're actually Rockefellers and Rothschilds. Like Ellen DeGeneres, she's a Rockefeller. Tom Hanks, judging by the research I've done, he was Michael Clark Rockefeller, and he faked his own boating accident because his, if you look at Michael Clark Rockefeller, he looks just like Tom Hanks. He apparently died 2 years before Tom Hanks's first movie came out.
And isn't also he was the guy, he went missing on that weird island that right at the beginning of all this again, we started talking about again. Like some island on the planet that nobody had ever been to before, and we hadn't heard about it any time in the news for like 40 years. And then all of a sudden it was in the news again right at the beginning of this. And Tom Hanks is my number one rabbit hole. I can connect every single conspiracy on the planet to him. And he literally kicked off coronavirus. He was the celebrity.
Well, he did. I mean, one of the things I first went viral for was I used to do story highlights back when we weren't shadow banned all the time. You know, I used to expose a new topic every day. And my Tom Hanks one got me quite a few followers because I went in depth from, first of all, David Spade. He was, I don't know if you remember the Minecraft figure he had on his desk and saying, "Hanks, where are you?" He was trying to get Hanks to communicate him on Minecraft. He then made another video standing and he said, this is all riding on Hanks. Just want you all to know that if anything happens to Tom Hanks, I'm going to go on my roof and that's what he said. And then Kirsten Dunst made a very telling post. She posted a picture of, you know, those toys you can get of Woody from Toy Story where you pull the string and it starts talking. She posted a picture of a Woody toy face down with his hat off his head. There was a diaper box in the background with a dome on top to make it look like Epstein Island. And then she posted some building blocks with a letter Q bang in the middle, right? And the rest were plain. So people started commenting going, "Oh, somebody poisoned the water hole. Tom Hanks is dead. She's telling you Tom Hanks is dead." And the comment section, it was just boom, 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 people realizing what was going on. And then he started posting very strange comms, if you like, about a typewriter and stuff like that. And then what was really Corona, yeah. And then
and at the exact same time, Madonna was posting.
Yes, Madonna.
Corona typewriter.
She was. And her famous video that made no sense unless you know about adrenochrome, where she said, "I watched the last of the rose petals go down the drain. Luckily, I know a florist, but even they've said their supplies run out." That makes no sense unless you know what she's talking
right
about.
around the same time, she also made a post of how she wanted to murder like a bowl like of spaghetti or something, like some
Yeah,
kind of weird.
yes. So she sung a song. It was Vogue, but she was singing about we want some fried fish because we've got no pasta. Well, the
Fried
reference with that
yeah.
fried fish is actually a reference to the cannibal child killer from the 1800s, Albert Fish. He used to cook children and eat them, and that's what she was referring to with that reference. But yeah, Tom Hanks did that Corona video
since 2020, and this is why I'm like, you guys. We're all it's like our brains aren't melted out of our ears. Like,
yeah.
I've had at least 20 years to have all this slowly go into my head. And so it amazes me to talk to somebody where I used to get like, what is all these baby truthers? But now I'm like, to talk to somebody where I feel like we are ping ponging back and forth, and you had all this shoved in your brain since 2020 is mind blowing.
I was thrown where I didn't expect to go viral. This was the catch. This is why it happened. Okay, so I was trying to wake up my town, and I didn't realize the power of hashtags. So I got kicked off Facebook because my own town reported me for being a domestic terrorist. So they were making memes about me and everything. So then I went, right, round two then. So I went on Instagram, started posting the same memes, put hashtags, and then the next minute 500 followers turn into 5,000, turn into 10,000, and I was like, the people are counting on me for research, so I'm going to have to fry my own head. I followed
the UK Patriot First account when I was conspiracy chicken forever ago, and there wasn't a ton of us. There was like Tataria Bella. Like, I know these certain conspiracy theorists that saw the Church of Hollywood for what it was, and saw how powerful it was, and saw how more important and influential it was on the planet, even than all these political figures we were talking about speckled around the world. And it was like, for me to see people that were waking up to the symbology of that. And so you were one of the oldest accounts I followed, with all the lost accounts in shadow ban, that it was just like, we all do it. One of the people in the world that I'm like, I didn't even remember you existed. And so when it came back around in my world and awakening, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this. Like, it's like even a full circle for me, probably like to the year almost of like losing my first account and coming back with losing my anonymity, or becoming Cheney instead of conspiracy chicken. And the more power in our avatars, like how important it is for people like you and I to stand up and say the truth for what it is, without fear of being called all the anti-Semitic and racist and blah, 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 because we're in the avatars that they're not allowed to call us that.
Speaking of that, though, this is what's really strange about it, okay? Because, like, I've said this to a few people who have interviewed me, but literally, like, before all of this, okay, I was that person who I didn't like pictures taken of me. I wouldn't have even gone live on Facebook to 2 friends. I had the worst crippling anxiety my whole life. But when I just tried to post on my Facebook to wake up people, and then I went to Instagram, the followers came, and I saw it as it was obviously fate and it was meant to happen. And so I was put in that position, I was given this platform, and fear is a control mechanism for a start. I woke up to that, and I just was like, okay, I'm being put in this, and I've got to do it. And it took me a while to do my first live, actually, like on my Matt Ray Q account. I post for ages. I was too scared to go live. And then one day I was like, let's see if people would even watch me go live. So I pressed the button, and like 100 people joined, and I was like, okay. All right. And then I spoke to them for like 45 minutes. And after that, I was like, you know what? It's not that bad, because people feel the same, people like it's a different world now. Like it's not coming back. The old world isn't like people don't want to hear about materialistic stuff anymore. People want to hear the truth. And a lot of these influencers that are still posting nudes and still talking about stuff that doesn't matter are going to learn the hard way soon, because intelligence and knowledge is becoming what people want to hear. They don't care about these self-absorbed people anymore. the devil's on everyone's doorstep. And if at this point, people with big followings aren't using it to do good, people aren't going to have time for them anymore.
Okay. Here's what I'll get into a little bit, which maybe for us, it's been a little different. And you said Q. Are you a Q supporter? Are you still, do you believe in the movement of Q? And when did you wake up to it and all that idea?
When I first went viral, I was pro Q. I was my username was Matt Ray Q, and it's because I searched the New World Order, and then I stumbled upon the pedophile ring, and obviously a lot of the content from that comes from the Q movement, and so I've always had hope. Yeah, I do still have hope, but at the same time, I don't tie myself strictly to the movement because I like to use discernment and I don't want to be wrong. So I do still have faith, and a lot of my friends are still pro Q, and I do still follow the movement in that respect, but I am open-minded to other people's angles, and I think that all sources of information are important, and because if we rely too much on one thing, we could get hurt. That's how I see it. But one thing I have noticed that does make me believe more in it as time has gone on is I've realized a lot of the reason the movement got discredited was because people were taking the drops into their own hands, which they shouldn't have done from the start, because we were told not to have any outside communication. It should have only been from Q. And I've realized the deltas. Okay, so a big eye-opener for me this year was 2017.
What's
the Q
delta?
drop. The delta, okay, is when bang on
It's
that
not
day,
a
but a
variant.
few years later.
This is
No, it's
actually
definitely not a
something that-
variant. Yeah. So say a delta would be, right, so this one, for example, was 2017. For November 2nd, the Q drop said to follow Uma and to study her book. Well, this year, on November 2nd, which is the delta, but a few years later, obviously, right, 4 years later, yeah, November 2nd, Uma's book came out. So here's where it went wrong. The reason why Q's been discredited
and
is because, Uma Abedin,
Hillary's lover.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Frazzle Drip fan,
Yeah.
Frazzle Drip friend. That's what she is. Because people took it into their own hands, ignored the Q drop that said news will unlock the roadmap as well. And the other thing, people don't believe in it anymore because too many people tried to make it up for themselves and it never happened. But now it's happening because the deltas are lining up, and
everybody wanted to be a soothsayer. So everyone wanted
Yes.
to be a Notre Dame and pick the date first and be the same thing that Donald Trump has been, I think, a tagline, the fake news, 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 all the news, you guys. Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. Tucker Carlson isn't any more your friend than Rachel Maddow. This idea, and this is my whole thing from the beginning, has been kill your idols. But it was easy for me because I was a kid who grew up in love with Howard Stern. I was a kid who grew up in love with Joe Rogan. I was a kid who grew up in love with Alex Jones. And so these were all people that I was on the lean, that they were telling me the truth. And so as we went on over the years, and I've watched all my quote unquote truthers fall prey where I'm like, oh, they're MTV CIA too. Oh, this is how big it is. Oh, this is how big it is. This is how contoured even I am and the things I like are. And so once I realized that and killed my own Hollywood idols, and I'm from Palm Beach. I was born in Palm Beach. So Donald Trump was my JFK Jr. The Inquirer was my local paper in a way, like the New York Post is their local paper. Like that was all real stuff to us growing up, the National Enquirer, and it's still probably the truest paper of any of the papers out there that anyone wants to stand by is the stuff the National Enquirer said. So I, in my liberal lesbian heart, wanted to hate a guy like Donald Trump easy from the get. So of course I wanted to grab him in this way. I was dissecting the Church of Hollywood and be like, okay and here on a platter because I'm the person who dissects celebrities. So of course I'm going to give you him on a silver platter with everything I can find. And so when I do dig after dig after dig after dig with thing after I know, and I can't come up with the stuff that I can on Tom Hanks, that I can on Steven Spielberg, that I can on, you name a person, Howard Stern. If you think they're righteous or if you think they're Joe Rogan, the people that are spreading the truth to our movement, I have killed my idols for so long. It was easy for me to never stand by a whole bunch of these people that I've watched fall prey to, like, we all put them on a pedestal, Mike Pence, because Donald Trump picked them. We all put, Donald Trump put Anthony Fauci on his, because he put a magnifying glass on these people. And I've watched enemies closer. Yeah, everybody kind of wake up to it now. And I'm so grateful. But I think part of the biggest problem the Anons did, separate from Q, and people that don't know it have to make the difference, because Anons existed way back at Operation Wall Street. Anons existed for a very long time before there was an Anon called Q. And so I think killing your idols is as important as not being Notre Dame and trying to fake news a date like Anderson Cooper. You don't rush out a false truth.
Well, this is the thing as well, right? Once you start, it's a good thing to kill your idols, because once you start researching this stuff, you're not really left with anyone who's good. Like, the more famous they are, the more dirty they are.
Nothing is for free in Hollywood.
No, it's not. Like, even the people who might not necessarily be involved in, like, the depravities of pedophilia and stuff, you really think they're still clean? They've got something on them. You know, it's only, like, you know, from what from people I've spoken to who have been in the industry, you know, the ones who are speaking out or laying low and, like, they're supportive, the ones who are scared to speak up but are, like, go to the truthers, thank you so much. You know, those ones have told me.
And there's a
like,
lot of them, you guys. There's A-list celebrities that are friends with a lot of people that you know in this truth movement that are reaching out, and they're gonna come out and they'll be on some of these podcasts or some of these things very soon. But you would be floored at some of the people that are mum's the word right now, and they're doing little things that they can, but when you think everybody's like, oh, you conspiracy theorist, you're just all like fringe. No, you have no idea.
A lot of people struggle to understand how these things happen too. So I want to go into what an actor who quit Hollywood in 2002, he explained to me how the blackmail happens, and it made me fully understand it, because when you hear what these people do, you think, why would you ever do you know what I mean? Like, it's disgusting stuff what they do.
Actually, a thing with my audience that I laugh about, and I have a hashtag called like fuck Betty White, because Betty White is this super white gem that everyone puts on his pedestal. They are like, nothing could be bad about Betty White. She's everyone's grandma. But nothing's for free in Hollywood. And she actually has the title of mayor of Hollywood. She's actually been the mayor of Hollywood. So I say fuck Betty White in a way that if I can get you to understand the demon of this woman, you're going to be able to see everybody that I want you to understand. So to me, Betty White is the Queen of England. They're the same kind of old lady fucking energy that we're all meant to feel safe, and they're taking care of us, and it's grandma's bosom. But that is the evil. The things that these demons have seen Betty White do, so their inside joke of ha ha ha, we've all watched Betty White frazzle drip someone. They have inside jokes on us. It mocks us.
So he turned around to me and he explained how the blackmail happens, right? He goes, it will start off like this. He goes, say you're like a new and coming actor, okay? You're not in anything major yet, but you'll go to a party, like a low grade one. I'm talking like your D-list, like you're not going to be anything major, okay? You'll go to a party and there might be a agent there or something, okay? And if that agent takes a liking to you, he's going to say, would you like to come around my house for dinner? And you're going to go, oh yeah, because maybe then I'll be able to get like a better role, you know. So you'll go for dinner, and then he's going to turn around to you and say, do you want to give me head? And you're going to say, no, I'm not gay, thank you. And he'll go, well, can I give you head then? And you'll go, no, I'm not gay. And you're going to think that you handled that situation well, but you're going to get blacklisted. But here's the thing: most people don't say no, right? Most people say yes. Okay, They don't know they've already secretly been filmed giving that blowjob, right?
That's
Next
the Harvey
step.
Weinstein of it all that no one talks about. We've all heard about these women that were like, Harvey tried to jerk off into a plant.
Yeah.
But what we haven't heard is Jennifer Lawrence say, oh, I sucked his dick 10 times and that's how I got Hunger Games.
Then he said the next step is you get a slightly better movie. Next thing, you're at a party with people like Johnny Depp. You're doing drugs with them. You're having a great time. You're like, whoa, this is the life. These people are hanging out with me. So then you go to the next party. You know, it gets a bit more freaky at this one. Apparently, there'll be like some orgies going on, but you'll be like, whoa, I get to sleep with a famous actress.
Yeah, don't open that door.
So that happens. Then the cost starts getting bigger, right? He said there's underground parties. When you go to those, you will see some freaky stuff. He says these people literally eat feces off of cocktail sticks. They have disgusting, depraved interests, and whether you believe in the alien side of it, he said you'll get vrills in there. And the reason why they eat the feces is because they like sulfur, and all that kind of stuff will be in those kind of things, right? And he says that at this point, when these parties are going on, the celebrities will be like, okay, this is a bit weird, but they've invited me, so I guess it's cool, right? But then it gets to the ultimate point, right? You'll go to a place, another underground party, you will see a child get brought out, and they will line up the celebrities to rape the child. Now, if you're there, you see this and go, oh no. Oh, no. You'll go to leave and they'll go, see that camera over there? Are you sure you want to leave? Because you're already here. We've got you on camera. So that's where they get you. So whether you do it or not, you're in that room and you're theirs. That's it. And the thing is, pedophilia is the ultimate depravity.
Well, this is what they do after that. So once you're in line and you rape the kid, and you think you're done, and you think you're in, and you think you've given your soul to the devil. Now, a member of your family, they sacrifice.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have to go through this whole loss because they want you to lose your whole family because now they're your family.
Jennifer Hudson. They murdered her family. Jennifer Hudson. They killed her. Wasn't it her mom and her?
You can go after, it's like celebrity after celebrity right before they hit it big. Kanye West. Right before, it's like there's a big, huge tragedy. It could be a car accident. It could be a death. It could be, but it's never happenstance. It always.
They say that Lady Gaga took her best friend's identity. She, they were her friend's songs. She took them, almost like that Disney movie Coco. Have you seen that? Where the mate was actually the one who stole the songs and killed the granddad. These people, they are given.
And they work in a way they can pool power. There's stories that Queen Elizabeth II is actually the reincarnate of Queen Elizabeth I. And there you have the first androgynous queen. She murders Mary, Queen of Scots. And then you have the separation of the lizard, Beth, and Mary, which if you look at Mary through divinity and the whole divine feminine of it all. And so you have these kind of two big, huge figures that we are led to believe that Mary was, Catholic and Elizabeth is a Protestant. But the thing is about the Catholic Church that I really believe is probably around the Constantine time, the pagans and the Protestants were like, this church, we're not going to be able to get rid of it. So we have to infiltrate it and become Catholic with all their symbology, and they won't know everything. We'll take over the whole Christian world because they won't ever understand all the ritual they're doing for us. So it's weird when you even see the monarch of these reincarnates. I have talked about the Skull and Bones on my show, how they had the head of Geronimo. Witchcraft people think Mary Magdalene, they have her skull still, supposedly. People think, or Henry VIII, back to how he decapitated everyone. If you keep the skull of something, you can retain its power. So if you married 8 witches, good or bad, imagine what Henry VIII could do. And if you look in the monarch and how big his picture is and the way he sits in this grandiose kind of idea, it's interesting. Like with the Lady Gaga of it all, when you take it all around, when you think Henry VIII, this huge, powerful thing, Lady Gaga, how much power is she wielding?
He definitely, growing up in England, the school system force Henry VIII on you so much. Like, I was made to learn about him continuously.
And Henry
Like, so
VIII, 8 is 13. Everyone has to know this symbology wise, because 8 years on Earth is 13 years on Venus. So this
And
is
there's
their
13
Project Rose and
bloodlines.
pentagram of it all. All their symbology of the pentagram is all the symbol of Venus.
And there's 13 Illuminati bloodlines.
And Kennedy is one of them.
Yeah, we got
like,
isn't
kill
it
your
the
idols, everyone.
there's the Freemasons, there's the Jesuits, the Skull and Bones, what you were talking about. There's the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the royal family, the lizards. I can't think of the others right now. There's so many at this point.
So, okay, you're growing up in England, not to get off Lady Gaga, but it'll totally come up again. And you're just slept growing up atheist. Your parents were atheist?
Yeah, I was growing up. I was never christened or anything. My family aren't religious at all. They thought it was a load of rubbish, and so I didn't have a very good start in life regarding like my faith, because I was driven away from it, you know. But in the long haul, it's been good, because I think it's nice to find your own journey. Some people who have faith forced on them, they stray from it later in life. So I think it's nicer to have found it.
Yeah, I grew up in the South, so a majority of people that grow up down here grow up Christian, and just you're almost born again before you even know what being born again means.
Right.
It just all, and you don't get to pick it anymore. In the exact same way, you don't really get to pick your conservative or liberal ideology. You just take your parents. So you have their religion and their politics. So that was their brainwashing put on them, and you have it put on you, and it becomes the whole entire thing that your guilt and your lack of authenticity comes from. Like you can't even. So if you grow up atheist, are you just allowed to? I can't. It's almost the juxtaposition of how I grew up, because everything around me was, being a lesbian. I was going to hell every night I went to sleep as the smallest kid I could remember, without even being able to tell anyone that I had this fear I was going to hell, because supposedly in the church I believed, and that I had pushed on me, is that my lifestyle choice was a sin.
See, for me, like growing up atheist, I think it did have some negative things on me, because I suffered from sleep paralysis for a lot of my childhood years. I was too scared to go to sleep. And when I used to read how the excuses they'd make for sleep paralysis, you know, oh, it's just your body shutting down. I was like, no. I was attacked in my sleep. Like, I was laying there and I couldn't move. And I always, even though I didn't know back then that it was more like a demonic thing, because I think it is now, you know, I think it's like a demonic attack. I knew something wasn't right, and I didn't believe what they were telling me, because you're telling me, right, that people all over the world have sleep paralysis, but they only seem to recall the same entities visiting them. They either report the old hag that sits on their chest and suffocates them, the alien probing, or the shadow people. Now, you're telling me of all those billions of people in the world, they always see the same three things.
Carbon energy.
How could it be anything
Black
unless
energy.
spiritual? You know, it's got to be some kind of attack. Like, because people have imaginations. If it was really dream affected, you would see your own personal fears, surely. Do you know what I mean? Like things that would subliminally affect you. But the fact that they see the same things just told me that it was some kind of spiritual attack. And now I think it was demons. I truly think it was, because I was a child, you know. Children, they're innocent. They go for innocence.
Do you feel like spirit was kind of reaching out to you in a way your entire life, even though your parents didn't put it around you?
Yes, 100%, because I had many paranormal things happen around me as well. So my mum said that when I was a really little kid, I had an imaginary friend, but she said she used to find it concerning because I would talk to that imaginary friend like it was a person. Like, there was one time apparently I don't know. My mum never told me. I don't know what his name was.
Ask. You have to find out.
I'm going to have to find out. But she said that there was one memory that really, like, she still remembers now. And I was standing by my bike. She heard me outside really stressed, and she came out and I was going, get off my bike. That's my bike. Get off it. And she was like, there's no one there. And I was convinced there was someone there. And apparently I would like talk on the bottom step in the house to someone who wasn't there. And a creepy thing about that house, I was already about 4 years old when I was living in it. So I'd gone past like the newborn stage and all that. But 2 families moved into that house after me. Both had newborn babies and both died of cot death in the same bedroom.
Wow. And then you almost wonder, because I contradict everything, were you being haunted by those children, or did those children die on timelines? Also, we could be right now on the highest possible timeline, and you were protected.
I've gone down this hole lately. I've been going down this rabbit hole lately that ghosts aren't actually ghosts, but time doesn't exist, does it, right? Time doesn't exist. So I went down a rabbit hole. Let's say, yeah, that when we see, like, when people see these ghosts of like these like Victorian maids and stuff like that, right? What if we're haunting them too, because they're existing at the exact same time as us, but on a different timeline because time's not real, and we're haunting them and they're haunting us? A bit like that Nicole Kidman movie, The Others.
Totally, where she doesn't even know she's dead.
Yeah, she was the ghost all along, and she didn't know it.
Or if it's all, like I sometimes say, we are the children of the witches they couldn't burn, the pirates that never walked their own plank, the peasants and serfs that were fast enough to run away with their children. Like, we are all the kin of all the accumulative best of every religion and all the wishes of the world to come to this point that we win this time.
To save humanity.
Yeah.
So I do 100%.
It gives me chills when I get to think like how lucky we are to be alive right now.
Well, yeah, like I said earlier about how I used to have anxiety and stuff. There's no other explanation I can think of for the change in me other than God made that happen. God turned around and went, you know, and I've been thinking more about that. Like, I was talking to Graf about it earlier on the phone, and how Jesus, okay,
and that's
he had 12.
You guys, he
yeah.
did an episode of my podcast that you can check up and listen to, or you can listen to the Grafcast somewhere. So check out those things. Go ahead. But
I was talking to him about how obviously Jesus had 12 followers, and what did they all have in common? They were sinners, you know, and because sinners, they need him the most, and they're the perfect vessel to use for God's work, because they can. If someone who was completely perfect went over to a Satanist or whatever and said, turn to God, he loves you, but they were like, shut up. You've had not a hard day in your life. But if someone who has been through it and they can relate to tells them their testimony, it resonates more. Okay. So like when I first woke up, I started feeling really ashamed about being trans and stuff, because I woke up to the Hollywood agenda. Okay. And then I woke up to the fact that they put aborted fetal cells of the opposite gender in childhood vaccines, which is what has caused a rise in the last couple of decades in trans and gay children. Okay. And I was like, okay, do I detransition? And then I thought, hold on, I've been living this way for so long now. I went through all of this stuff to get to where I am now, and it made me depressed going through it because it's a long process. Do I detransition and have to go through it all again? Or do I just become an example for people like me, or a warning to children who are because they're trying to force kids to transition right now at young ages. And that is sick, because even at 18, I can honestly tell you, I don't think I was ready. I thought I was, but when I finally started the hormones when I was about, I think I was like 25 or something, I realized that I was still a kid then. I was going through college. I wasn't ready. Could I have handled that going through education? No way could I. So these parents who are putting their kids on blockers,
you know what?
They're doing the devil's work.
Where I was excited to have you on, because it's something in my avatar that I stand alone a lot talking about in our community. And in our community, I have to say, in Q, in conspiracy, in conservative, it is scary to stand where you and I sit and think first they come for the blank, and then they will always come for me next. So when people first, they come for the Jew, the pink triangle is right after the gold star. Or first they come for the black man, the gay is right after that. Or first they come for the... So I just want to make very clear for the people in our movement that some of the things they talk about and some of the ways they've handled themselves are completely inappropriate and very frightening for people like me, where I sit as a lesbian who is not part of an LGBTQ keep adding letters agenda. I am an American patriot who is very grateful and very aware that I'm a sovereign being, yes, but because of the country I live in and the government that was in place, I have the ability to have a big, huge mouth. My government didn't give me my freedom, but I'm glad it was there in my country with these ideals of the Constitution to give me the ability and the know-how and the wherewithal to be able to open my big mouth now. And so I think there's a lot of cruelty and a lot of changes of heart that needs to happen in our side of the movement, and Christians and things of stop talking about trans and gay people like they separately are part of the enemy any more than Chinese people are the enemy. There's governments and agendas that have been put on all of our avatars that are not from our hearts or our heads. And I also love that you said, as a trans person, you weren't ready, but that you can also see how important it is to stand up right now and be like, hey, don't be giving your kids all this shit because this is a vax injury. And our vax injuries aren't just autism, and they aren't just retardation, and they aren't just gay, and they aren't just trans. They were putting aborted fetal cells of the opposite sex in us. They were putting animal DNA in us. Some of the bestiality things that people are craving from the porns are just triggers because they have fucking cow and pig DNA in them. So I just, the same way, some of our things that people consider sins or not sins, reread your Bible. Do you live by the 10 Commandments, or do you live by every single other word in there? So there is something that needs to happen on both sides. And I feel like we're kind of in this place of being a real rarity in this world, in the same way of if we were a black man being like, hey, I back Donald Trump. So,
I mean, I kept
a trans person says, hey, don't give your kids fucking hormones and testosterone at 3 because they could want to be a unicorn tomorrow. And that doesn't mean you stick a butt plug tail in their ass either.
Literally. I mean, I kept
words in your mouth.
No, I kept my personal life quiet up until I was doxxed. And you know what? I nearly gave up in the movement because I have never associated with that community, because I've noticed the LGBTQ community, without being offensive with this, they struggle to see themselves as anything other than gay. Like the people I knew in the community, all they did was post about their sexuality. And I was like, there's more to you than your sexuality. Why does it have to be the be all and end all of your personality? So I never associated with them. And when I started posting truth, I wanted to be known for what I was putting out and not, it's that tranny in the movement. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want to be known as that.
Chicken. I picked conspiracy chicken to literally put a C and a C, a 3 and a 3. I wanted to put every single Illuminati trope around the idea, the chicken of it all with the Pizzagate. I even put the Eye of Ra on my logo because I wanted to break people's brains, and I would never even voice them back. Because I wanted them to think I was whoever they were, because the truth just needed to resonate, not because it came
we don't
out of
need labels.
Ellen DeGeneres.
When I was doxxed, I was very depressed over it, and I was like, I either leave the movement now when I've already been like quite a big part of it for 2 years, or I finally claim back my power. All the times I've not stuck up for myself in the past, I can finally prove I'm not that person anymore. That like I am new in like the image God gave me, and I'm not afraid to speak anymore. And I can make a video right now and tell people the truth. Before he exposes me fully for just being trans. There was nothing bad about me. It was just what I was, you know. But at the time, I thought it was a really bad thing because of how people speak out about the agenda. I was worried they would see me as some Baphomet worshipping demon. So anyway, I was like, if I make a video I'm not going to have the courage to post it, so I'm going to go live. So I got my friend with me. I sat there and I started crying, and I told him, and I was so stunned at the amount of love. It gets me emotional thinking about it, because I thought Patriots, like what you were saying before about how some conservatives, like the love they gave me was so unexpected. Like I knew they were loving before, but with this, like I realized that they really did care about me. Like, you know, they cared about the person behind the information. And I felt so accepted and so loved. And then I was like, okay, so now this has been a blessing in disguise. I thought it was a bad thing, but it's not. Even though he did a horrible thing to me, it's actually worked out well for me, because I'm not living in fear anymore either, because I was always scared of it coming out. Do you know what I mean? I was scared someone from my town who's asleep would comment, "You're trans," like, and out me. But then it was out, and then it was down to me to make something of it and actually speak out on what, like I just said to you.
You got the full dead name. You got the full, like, I've had friends, you know, like my Maria, she got doxxed, and her being an attorney in her real life 3D world, it was like a wave of like, I'm about to lose my whole life's work, you know, like this whole
It's
thinking,
horrible.
That bad enough. Add on top of your whole entire growing up, your trauma, trans. I don't want to assume, but I just imagine as a trans person, sometimes you have to come out as gay, and then you have to come out as trans, and then you have to come out as conservative, and now you have to come out as an anon, and now you have to come out as a Trump fan, and now you have to come out. It's like, holy shit. Like just the waves of, you know, and to do it all in how many years?
Yeah, the doxing, like,
you should be so fucking proud of yourself, like that you like survived all of this.
Yeah, I don't know how. Honestly, it was a make or break. It was Jude who actually made me realize I couldn't let it get the better of me, because at first, because we'd both been pulled into this thing that wasn't even our beef, you know, got pulled into it, and then I was the one that was doxed.
So you're doxed, and you're do you already have a friendship online with your wife at this time?
Yeah. So we were already together, but we were already a couple
before this.
How did we? Okay, so obviously I'd been viral on the Matt Ray Q account, and around June time, I was on my UK Patriot account at this point, and in the June time, I saw Jude's first video, the one where she flipped from Democrat because she woke up, and I went, now that is not something you see every day. These liberals, she had green hair and everything, do you know what I mean? This girl with green hair sat there and she's going, I think Trump might actually be the good guy.
Judith Rose back then? What was
Yeah.
And so in our whole thing too, I knew her as well, because here I'm sitting in my avatar, but still hiding behind a chicken. And there's all of a sudden the first chick I see that I'm like, she looks like a chick that I'd go to a show with or watch a concert.
Yeah.
And oh, she's admitting, like, I didn't tell anyone I voted for Bernie once. I didn't tell anyone even though I have been woke, I still voted for Bernie once. It was like she was coming clean with all this stuff that I hadn't talked about in my truther world, that I was admiring it from a whole different side. Like, wow, look at the honesty on this chick, and she looks punk rock.
It was so interesting. Like, you just didn't see liberals do that. And so I was like, I need to get this girl on alive. So I tried reaching out to her in DM. Her box was so full, I didn't. And in the end, I thought, you know what? I'm going to try my luck and send her an email. Apparently, that was the right answer, because I got a response in seconds. Like, she responded really quick, interviewed her, and we just clicked really well. And then we started like having the odd little bong together on the phone, you know, and 1 hour calls and just a smoke kept turned into like 7 hour calls.
To be super cheesy, when you first saw her, were you kind of like instantly crushy, or did it take sitting down?
No, I'd not long, well, a few months before, had finally escaped this very toxic situation with a narcissist that had gone on way too long. I was with a woman who was twice my age, and she had loads of kids, and she was manipulating me for a long time. And because I cared about the children, I kept falling for it. If it had been just her, I would have left a long time ago. But when I loved those kids, like they're my own kids, I really loved them. And so I kept getting blackmailed with the kids. And so I was at this point, when you're with a narcissist for so long, you get to this point where you think you're not capable of being loved by anybody. And so you don't even notice if someone likes you. And we were talking for like 2 weeks straight, Jude and I were. And then she turns around to me one day and she goes, I've got feelings for you. And I was like, and then in my head started thinking, you've been speaking to this girl for like 6 or 7 hours a day. Is that a friend? And I went, I have feelings for her too. And I had to like have her tell me to realize, because where I'd been through so much of that woman, I didn't think I was capable. Like narcissists really know how to break you.
Say this, but you're such a fucking dude. Like she was talking to you for 6 or 7 hours a day.
But like,
she like, shit, I have feelings for you. Hello.
Yeah. But previous, like if it hadn't have been for that narcissistic relationship, I probably would have switched on a lot sooner, you know, but I was just so crushed. Yeah, like I was like shut off, like nah, you know. And once I thought about it, I was like, no, yeah, I do. And also with the anxiety I told you I had before.
So you guys were just talking every day, doing digs. It wasn't even like flirty or anything.
No, like this is the thing. Like she was just interested in who I was as a person. Like she already knew I was trans too. So basically, like second phone call after the live
too, that you didn't have to like come out to her after, which is such another traumatizing.
Well, like I didn't keep it quiet from my friends in the movement. Like I told them personally, like if we were on like a really close level, like talking on the phone. So like second call after the couple of lives we did, I was like, I just told her, I was like, I'm a trans guy, like that. And she was like, oh, okay. Like that. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And like we were just friends. And then she still liked me after that, you know, and she told me. And she'd also been in a toxic situation, like, you know, 6 years. She'd been with a narcissist too. So our like backgrounds, hers was longer than mine, a lot longer. But mine was only like 3 years altogether that I was stuck around this person. But it was weird how we've both been in these similar situations of these narcissistic people. And so I was what gave her the courage to actually, like she said, like know her worth, you know, and she moved back to her mum's, and she came to see me in England in the February, and I knew it was going to be okay because we were talking on the phone all the time. Like there was no doubt it was going to go bad because we were constantly on video to each other, you know. Even when we were posting our content, we were like, how does this sound to you? Like going over it with each other, you know, like checking it all through. She came to England then, and then the plan was to obviously visit the States.
Like the second she made mention and that it even went through your head, did it even shift where like when you saw each other again, you were like, hi? Like where it was just like, oh, we're butterfly.
I knew I wanted to marry her after a month of being with her, and I'd never had that before. But I think when you're awake to the world, you become a naturally more high vibrational person, and you learn how to be more respectful towards people. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you see these control mechanisms they've put and these ideologies they've made people go for. I mean, a lot of people are in toxic relationships because the elites have told people to go for the Love Island and the X on the beach kind of people, you know, these toxic people who are going to cheat on you. And they've glamorized that, you know, the bad boy is sexy, you know, they've made it look like the way to be, and it's not. It's going to give you depression. Like it's just, they've glamorized this because they want this broken structure, don't they? They want the broken family unit. So when you wake up, you kind of realize where you may have been at fault in those ways because you've been conditioned to be like that. And so I think a lot of people who are getting in relationships once they've woken up, they're lasting because they're with people who are on their frequency. Yes. They have values and they want a better world, and they don't want this toxic stuff anymore. So yeah, like I knew it so quickly because I was seeing behavior even over the phone before we'd met in person in this girl that I hadn't seen in any of my girlfriends I'd had in my life.
Yeah. And it was so she comes to England. Yeah. And are you like, okay, how am I going to get back to the US now? Or are you like, you're moving here? Or are you like, I know I'm going to be an American?
So we knew roughly that I was going to go there because here's the really weird thing about this. Okay, this is where it gets really strange. I'm going to go back a couple of years of this. So go back to when I was a child at first. I always loved America. Even when I hadn't been there before, I always had a thing about America, right? Then 2017, I went to this event at my landlord's house. She's a spiritual woman. And she had a tarot reader there. And he gave me a reading. And he told me something really funny. And it only made sense to me in 2020. He said, in the near future, and I didn't know that near future could be like 5 years or so in the future because it's still quite fresh. He said that in the near future, there was going to be a lot of people listening to me speak. And I laughed at that because I was like, do you have any idea how shy I am? There's no way I'm going to be public speaking and like speaking on something. He said that it would become quite intense. Then at November, there would be this quite disappointing thing that would happen. Well, Biden won the election in November, didn't he, in 2020? And then he said that there would be a relationship that I would have with a girl that would come about at this time. And it would end up with me moving to South America and getting married. Well, it didn't happen for a few years. And then 2020 came. I went viral for speaking out about the elites. I met Jude, and now I'm living in South America.
And it's not technically South America, but it's south of America.
Yeah, it's in the south. Yeah, the south of America. Like
Southwest. Yeah, that's pretty incredible. So are you
it was really crazy
now, or you have to go
no,
through
I'm going through it all right now. It's all in motion. Probably going to be a backlog because of the Rona, to be honest. So I don't know how long it's going to be till I have an update on that, but they've accepted my paperwork and it's just on a little pending thing now.
Some of the most incredible stuff I know, in Florida, in Texas, and southern places, they're like, don't New York up our Florida. Like, don't come down here with your bad voting. And, and that's always one side. But during this of like you getting here, or like I have a really dear friend that she got here and gave birth to her baby here, and totally unvaxxed, healthy baby.
Okay.
And I mean, it was a struggle. And so the amount of people that I know that have come here under the New World Order have the ideals and mindset that I think the original, if the story is told to us like it was, I don't care whether you were a pilgrim or came over on a boat as a slave or whatever was built in here of this like American ideal. I think it's just getting, like the torch is just getting bigger. It's not getting smaller. I'm
something
so
sad.
grateful.
I'm glad you feel that way, because something sad that a lot of Americans have said to me, I find it really sad anyway, is that it's the people who move to America who value it the most. Like a lot of people who are American, because of all this woke trash, especially the young generation, the ones who are in school now, they're being raised to hate where they come from and hate the color of their skin and be ashamed of America. And I just want to get all those people and shake them and go, do you know how lucky you are to be in America? Yeah. It's the greatest country in the world. It hands down is, because like one thing I say to back that up is, how people go to certain countries for certain kinds of views, like they want their mountains or they want their beaches. America's got it all, just in different parts. You've got the winter wonderland part of it. You've got the sunny part of it. You've got the desert. Everywhere you could dream of visiting on Earth, you can visit a form of that in America. Yeah.
I sometimes think our history is such a lie, that the Egypt they tell us about, the Israel they tell us about, that whatever cultures around the world, that's really from here. We're not the last place that everyone came to. We're the place everyone came from. And if you look at every other country on the world, people look like the name of that country. I say this often. So if you look at China, they look Chinese. If you look at Russia, they look Russian. If you look at, any part of Europe, they look European. But if you look at America, there isn't there isn't an avatar that we look like everyone, because this is where we came from. This is where the history was stolen from. This is, if you want to take, whether it's the island of Atlantis, whether it's Israel, this is it. This is where the Tower of Babel probably was. This is where the seven wonders of the world was. This is where the history has been gutted from. And I think it's pretty incredible. And I think it should be proud of, and everything they call racist. from the Dixie flag to the American flag we need to start re-looking at this stuff, because this part of history, like I know as a proud insurrectionist on January 6th, if history got rewritten in the way the Satanists and dark magic witches would like it to, then I would be called a racist terrorist in a decade or less. And I'm not that. And so I know that they've called Donald Trump a racist, and I know he's not that. So if the media and Hollywood and politics and churches are all against you in this world, you're probably doing the right thing.
You're over the target, literally, yeah. And then, the people who are shouting racist, they're supporting a man who literally was friends with Robert Byrd of the KKK. I mean, the hypocrisy is unbelievable. And the other thing is, when you try and tell these people these truths, they won't even look at them.
Nothing. They're not meant to. It's the Westworld of it all, that the robots can't see what will hurt them. You're right. We're literally living in this NPC quite well. These people who are literally the non-player characters. They have no ability to think for themselves. They can only recycle what is being said on the TV. And it is the biggest fear of us waking up, but also people that aren't quote unquote cisgender straight white males standing up and having these ideals that are told to us that are just cisgender straight white males. And I love to sit in a whole room of dudes, and I'll wear my black and red buffalo flannel, and I'm like, look, I'm a proud boy today. Look, I'm a proud boy today. Because I just think these kind of groups and entities that were put out there for us to see the same way, because it would be really easy to just blanket up, they're proud boys, they're all racist. And then look, it's another masculine thing that a dude with a flannel, the same way as you're not allowed to wear a black hoodie, Trayvon Martin, now don't wear a flannel. So then it's just another way to peel off this masculinity, all this working. And it's cotton, which I always go into the alchemy of American fabrics that have been ripped away from us, from tobacco to hemp to cotton. That's called racist. We're not allowed to do it. They've taken our wood. They've taken our metal. They've taken all the alchemy of what made this country great. They called, no one can have peanuts. Everyone's allergic to peanuts. Nope, that was an American crop. That was an American crop. So it's just very, they're shipping us food that they can't make in a lab from other parts of the world that we shouldn't be eating. And we're wondering why we're sick all the time. And we keep getting pills and vaccines, and that's making us sick. And that was a whole tirade and rant. But it's just...
No, but it's very true. They've poisoned everything. There's chemtrails in the air. Our food is fake. The majority of our food is completely fake. I mean, all you've got to do is go into a food store, look at the cheapest of an item, and the first ingredient's normally palm oil or corn syrup. They put the most dangerous stuff in the food.
Yeah. And then the most dangerous stuff in America over any other country on the planet. Most other countries won't allow oil drilling this close to their shore. Most other countries won't allow products that you can't pronounce inside their food. We just have this constant amount of chemicals going into us all the time, which usually if you take those chemicals, your tumor and your cancer won't keep growing. It's all the stuff that feeds these illnesses in our body. I know. Yeah,
it's really bad. I mean, I remember hearing about Diet Coke, and there was this woman who would have a can of Diet Coke every day. She started having a really bad heart. She went to the hospital, and they're like, "Yeah, you're dying." And she was like, "What?" They're like, "Yeah, you're going to die. There's something wrong with your heart." She stopped drinking Diet Coke, went back 3 weeks later. She was fine.
And it's just these little chemicals on top of chemicals on top of chemicals.
It's criminal. And people don't realize that, there's people who, it's actually better off. If you're going to drink soda, you're better off drinking a full fat one than these aspartame drinks, because that is a killer. Yeah, aspartame is so dangerous. And people go, I can drink this Diet Coke because it's got no sugar. Yeah, but the cost is worse than drinking the sugar. Trust me. If you're going to do it, you might as well just have the full fat, because you're going to have worst health risks from that aspartame than you are from that sugar.
I totally agree. I want to get back to it because I think I have a lot of moms and parents and people that have loved ones that are gay and trans and going through questioning themselves. First, let's talk about pronouns. What are
Oh
your
dear,
thoughts
no.
of this nightmare?
A load of crap. I can't stand this pronoun rubbish. It's absolute trash. And I don't believe in this gender fluid either. Like, even as a trans person, I am fully aware that there is two genders. You're either a boy or a girl. If someone wanted to still call me a female because of science, I would accept that. You know, like, people are getting too crazy with this. I saw a video on TikTok. Someone was identifying as a ram.
I think all of these pronouns are a way so they can even get the most conservative, straighty straight, whitey whites to eventually say, fine, we'll call everyone one pronoun. So
It's
if
a
we can
mental illness
eventually get to the them, they, and there's no more wombs and no more ways of birthing, and then we're closer to the real trans agenda that people need to be scared about.
The genderless people.
Yeah.
Genderless people.
It's transhumanism, not LGBTQ.
And that's another reason why they're pushing the gay agenda too, because if you're gay or you're trans, you're less likely to have children. That aids their depopulation plan. And over the years, I'm sure you've noticed it too, like you've been awake for ages, like they're feminizing men and masculizing women.
Yes, and they also do this very beautiful thing to gay and trans people because of the whole "you're going to hell." They put in them at a very young age that all religion and faith isn't for them. So they now have made the depopulation, because these are a whole bunch of people that aren't going to have kids, go easier. And it's a whole community of people that think faith isn't for them. So maybe government and maybe Godverment is. And it really is. It has been shoved into our face. And this is when people are like, there's always been gay people. Yeah. And there's always been tests and vaccines. There's always been different. It doesn't mean we're all vax-injured. Everybody needs to accept it. We're all vax-injured. Some of us get weird herpes, and some of us get weird rashes, and some of us are gay, and some of us are trans, and some of us are depressed, and some of us are abusive, and that's all just wiring inside our head, because if they didn't do the vax injury to us, they did it to our mothers. And if they didn't do it to our mothers while we were in utero, our eggs were all created inside our grandmothers. So how much vaccine has our grandmother had from our inception of egg to us sitting here right now? Yeah. And it's okay. Yeah. It's not our fault. It's not our fault. And it doesn't mean you're a sinner. And, yeah, so it's nice for me, I always have to give people like this kudos of what they are and aren't allowed to say. But also as a lesbian and a white lesbian, I've lost my card a little bit, as you know, it's like I don't have a tutu. I'm not wearing a unicorn on my head and skipping down the street with a rainbow flag. So I've lost my flag of being like, Cheney, you don't even have pride. You don't go to parades. So why are you even allowed to talk about this? And it's like,
this is the thing. I've had this, right? So I've been called transphobic. You know, when I first tried telling, so my friend, I'd told her, about the vaccines thing and the MRC5, and she'd just made a post about it, and her roommate had seen the post, and her friend was trans, so she'd gone giving her death threats in her block of flats and stuff. And I was like, let me talk to him, let me talk to the trans person. So I sent voice clip explaining everything in the nicest way I could, in as much detail as I could. And I'm telling you, some of these people refuse to accept that there's a possibility that the way they are could be anything but gender dysphoria. They don't believe that it could be vaccines, only gender dysphoria, right? And that's all it is. And I was called transphobic by someone who wasn't even trans, and the trans person said they don't claim me. And I was like, well, I'm glad you don't claim me, because if that's what you believe, then I'm glad I have no part in that. Like,
yeah, thanks for not claiming me in your club. Like,
literally, I don't want to be in your club. That's why I don't associate with it.
So if somebody has like maybe, whatever age, to 8, 10, 12, and maybe it's a little masculine girl or a little femme boy, and they're starting to question their own sexuality, what would you suggest a parent's?
I would say to the parents to take it with a pinch of salt at that age, because look, I was saying it since I was 5, okay? Conveniently, not long after vaccinated. So I was saying it from when I was 5. And the first time I told my mum, she said to me, I think it's just a phase you're going through. Now, at the time, I was like, but looking back, I was 5 years old. When you're a kid, like you said earlier, one day you want to be a unicorn, one day you want to be a fireman. Like, you don't know what you want to be when you're older, you know? So, some people want to be non-living objects when they're kids. Like, it's just the way it is. So, like, then the second time, I was 16, said it to my mum. Now, this led to, it was a dark time for me. It was a suicide attempt, I have to admit that. But my mum again told me it was a phase. But when as an adult, I can look back and say my mum did not fail me as a parent in that respect, because I was a child. So if any parents have their kids telling them these things, I ask them to take them seriously, okay, listen to them, but also explain to them that they are a child and that it's not right to do it right now. And if they still feel the same when they're grown up and they're old enough to think for themselves and look after themselves and go through the extent that you have to go through to even be where I am now, because you get put through a lot, you know, there's psychological examinations, there's the hormones and the hormones. It's like going through puberty all over again. So it's stressful. So to put a kid through that,
and
it's not right.
Something that people don't understand, even for adults. It's like for a woman to transition and have this certain amount of testosterone through their body, it's not just sexual, and their body actually changes and forms, but also you have to deal with an amount of rage that you're having go through you now, and strength that you never had before. And so if you don't have a really secure unit around you of people that are understanding, it's like for women, I would compare, and I've never done testosterone, but just because of trans friends that I have, it's
you're
like
spot on.
A flaming PMS that you can't under fucking stand, and it's so deep, like a hot rod in you. And
so when you're absolutely spot on, okay? Like, but so when before I started testosterone, I was quite I've always been quite a sensitive person, you know, I've always been that way. But when judging from when I was a female, from what I've learned, the difference is females, they tend to get upset, okay? Like, you'll get that blood boil feeling, but then you'll normally cry. Testosterone makes you angry, okay? So I started it, obviously, like 25 years old, and about 3 months in, I started hitting like a peak level, and I was finding that I was getting stressed, and I was getting really upset about it, because the other thing is, it stops you being able to cry. I used to be someone who could let my emotions out, and I could feel things. When I started T, I could feel the pain, but nothing would come. And that is torture, I'm telling you, because crying's a release, isn't it? Like it really helps. So imagine having this feeling, this testosterone going through your body, and you're feeling really like, and you're really stressed, but you can't even cry about it. And like, I started reacting to things in ways I wouldn't normally, like getting like aggravated by stuff. I wasn't violent to anyone, but like, I remember I punched my wall at one point, and that's something I wasn't used to either. Like, testosterone's a very it's a very tricky liquid to have going through you, okay? Like, the hormone, like, it does crazy things to your body, and I wasn't even fully prepared for what it did to me as an adult. Like, I knew what I was getting into, because I remember I had to like study all the possible side effects, you know, but living it was a completely different experience. And if people are putting their kids through that, that's not fair at all. It's really not.
Yeah.
It's evil.
So it's just like, love your kid, meet them where they're at, respect them when they speak about it, and give it validity that it's real, and then kind of support them maybe in the transition in so many other ways before you have to stick a chemical in their body.
Never, like, don't let them transition until they're an adult themselves, because like, it honestly, it is a really, it comes with a lot of traumatizing things. I mean, the other thing as well is, before you even get to the hormone point, obviously, you have to live as your preferred gender for a year before you even get the hormones, right? So imagine like how it was for me, you know, like even as an adult, I was dressing as a boy, but I looked like a girl. And so people made fun of me, like, and not everyone understands. So for a child to have to go for that, kids are really mean as well, as you know. Like kids in school can be awful. They can be so mean. So like, I think if someone puts their kids through that at a young age, they're just setting their kids up for a very hard time. And I know from my own experience, because even though I didn't start hormones until I was 25, I started living as Matt since 2009. So I after the suicide attempt, because I was like, okay, I'm either going to keep this quiet now and probably end up dead, or
what
I'm going to...
spirit suicide sound like now that you're in a healthy place and can separate that voice that was telling you to off yourself inside your brain? What was it telling you? And repeat, so people know sometimes that it's not them, and that it is actually like an energy on you that's whispering in your ear.
It attacks you in a crazy way. Like sometimes it will even do it by putting thoughts in your head that aren't actually your own thoughts. Like I would hear horrible things about people I loved in my head, and then I would get mad at myself thinking that was me thinking those things, you know. Like when you're down and you're that low, it's a really hard situation when you're in that place, because people think you're selfish because you just want to die. But when you're in that position, because of what you're hearing in your head, you can't hear how much they love you. You can only, the only thing in your mind
that you have been such a stress and burden on them your entire existence. You will be releasing the people you
that's exactly it
from the burden of you. And so it's like everybody thinks it's so selfish, but the voice convinces you that your existence is selfish.
The doctor in the hospital is actually who I think saved me from it all. Okay. Because when I nearly died, when I woke up, he said to me, he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I just don't want to be here anymore. I'm so unhappy. He went, so you're trans, right? And you're about to go through a journey with it? And I was like, yeah. He went, how silly of you. If you've wanted that for so long, like whatever it is in life, if you're close to getting what you want, why would you give up before you know what it's like? And I was like, whoa. And he went, if you're dead, you're no good to anybody, are you? And he goes, the fact you're still alive right now means there's a plan for you.
How did you try to kill yourself, if you don't mind me asking?
Hanging. But not drop suspension. It's really stupid. This is the thing, okay, the internet's dangerous too, right? Because Reddit forums were full of people telling you how to kill yourself. This is how dangerous it is. Like, we live in a world where if someone's depressed, they could just search how to kill themselves and the Google is going to come up with it straight away. You know, like I was told easily, get your phone charger, tie it around something and just lean forward and you'll pass out and die in the end. You know, like the details, like it's actually scary, because there's a lot of kids where they've glamorized the suicide lifestyle as well, haven't they? The rock music and stuff. They've made it like almost, they've glamorized death. They've glamorized it. And there's these kids who are just trying to follow their favorite rock stars. And so they're committing suicide just to be cool.
There's a energy. It's called the Shiangami. They say that Grimes, Elon Musk's ex-wife, soon to be ex-wife, dabbles in it. And it's a suicide spirit. And it prefers an OD or a hanging as the form of death to go, because it needs the vessel to stay alive long enough so it can jump to the next living vessel. And I find it intriguing. Like, I didn't know you were going to say hanging, but I knew you were going to say it. And that's always not the way. People would assume they off themselves when they think about it. If I ask you in your sober brain, how would you kill yourself if you killed yourself? Everybody has this almost like romantic, peaceful not painful, maybe even like I would take enough
Carbon
pills and
monoxide
just
in the car.
yeah, like easy way to die. Shinigami, an energy that isn't you, does not let you die that way. It's a whole different kind of thing.
And here's the other lie that they always tell you. There is no such thing as a painless death. Like as well, you know, when they say that the people on death row, when they get the lethal injection, they just go to sleep. They may not look like they're in pain, but that's because they're paralyzed. They are in pain. Like there is no such thing as painless
or the death row shots. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Just like 3 booster
boom,
shots.
boom, boom.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's it. It seems to be their 3, 6, and 9. Sometimes I wonder, like all the stuff they tell us, like even in the Tesla of it all, like look in this direction. I'm like, that seems like another bottleneck to me. I don't know if I want to look into your symbologies of numbers in the way you are saying I should, like the build back better of it all. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you didn't succeed with suicide, and I'm sure there are a whole bunch of people that are, but I do think surviving those kind of traumas in the world we're going into and having the courage enough to speak on them is how we save the world this time.
Yeah, and I think suicide is a really important topic that people need to speak on more. I mean, I lost my friend a few years ago to it, and check on people even if you think they're okay. That's all I'll say about that. Connor.
Yeah.
I might get emotional. I'll talk about it briefly, but he had autism, and the really, do you know the saddest thing about it was if he'd have died the year before or a couple of years before, I would have expected it. But he killed himself when he was recovering. That was the worst thing. And this is why people need to check on people, because even if people do recover, they can always relapse. And so Connor, back before, he was always on drugs and stuff. He went down a bad path. He was bullied, obviously, from his autism in school, but he never let his autism define him. And he'd made a post the year before, actually, saying how his depression was better, and he'd got a job and he was doing really, really great. And then this news just comes out, 2018. I defended him at first, thinking it wasn't suicide. This is what's really sad. So he got in a bust up with his parents, and he couldn't handle what was said in the argument. So he took his dad's car. He drank a bottle of vodka, drove down the motorway, lost control of the car. So he went to the side of the road. He survived the crash, got out, a car pulled over to check on him. And he said, "Leave me alone. I just want to die." He walked out in the road, kneeled, and got hit by a coach. And
did you have any feelings like you should contact him before this? No,
I thought he was okay. This is the thing, like with Connor, like you used to know when something was wrong, but this is the thing. Okay, this is why I'm saying check on people, because the ones who do kill themselves are normally the ones you least expect. Like the ones when people are really low, and they have suicidal thoughts. Like from what I've seen, like a lot of them kind of get through that, but the ones who then suddenly go quiet, and start spending time around you more and being loving around you and stuff, it's because they're planning on killing themselves and they don't want you to know. Because the thing is, when people know, they stop it from happening, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't want someone to die, but when they go quiet, like if people here listening to this, if they know anyone who has had depression in the past, but they've suddenly seemed okay, just please don't stop checking on them, because that's when they normally need your help the most.
I agree. And I also think this is where synchronicity and those kind of things are so divine, because there is signs that the universe gives us sometimes that are very attached to certain people that we love in our lives. And sometimes it feels very awkward. And I always tell people to go against that feeling of awkward, because that's going against our brainwashing and conditioning. And that's finding that core of divinity again. And sometimes you'll have it heavy put on your heart because of a, butterfly that you see, that you think of a certain person and you're like, I'm going to call them right now. I'm just going to tell them I love them. I'm just going to tell them this memory. Do that, even if it feels awkward, because those moments are holding
Save
lines
some.
for people and saving lives, and not just, they might not be suicidal, but you might be giving them energy enough so they make the call to the person that is.
I want to share something with you about that. Okay, so when I lived in England still, this was beginning of this year, it reminded me of what you just said. Me and my friend Aaron were walking back from my other friend's house, and we walked past the shop, and we just saw this like middle-aged woman sat on the curb. She was crying, and she had a bag of food next to her, right? And at first, I didn't notice she was crying at first. I started walking, and then I turned to my friend and I went, and he went, "You're thinking about that woman, aren't you?" And I was like, "We've got to go back." I went back there, with him. We sat there with her. She told us all this stuff, how she was going through a divorce. Her husband was trying to take her kids. She'd lost her business. She'd lost everything, and she wanted to die. After we finished speaking to her, I invited her around mine. I made her a hot drink. I gave her a little bong. We had a chat, and she turned around to me and she said, as we went to walk her home, "You two are angels. You saved my life. I was going to kill myself today." She was literally about to go to the bridge and jump, and me and Aaron felt the need to stop. And because we spoke to her, we heard her out. She didn't kill herself. And
you didn't think she was a crazy homeless person, and you weren't worried about catching corona. And
No.
You just broke.
I saw a person in need. Yeah. I saw a person who, what was upsetting me was how many people were walking out of that shop and saying nothing. And she said to me, she went, "I've been sat here for 2 hours and you're the only two who have stopped." And that shows where we fail in society as well, because not enough people are willing to help other people because they only care about themselves.
In every other timeline, she jumped. But on this timeline,
she lived another day.
Yeah. And that's what we're meant to do here.
100%. So I just, I hope more people like reach out to me. Even if you don't know somebody, right? You don't know their story. You don't know what they're going through. And even a stranger, that little bit of time you might give them could save their life.
Yeah. And we need all that energy around, because we're going to beat the New World Order and the devil and every demon that's ever existed on this plane. And I really keep telling people, like, what if revelation and tribulation and all these things already happened and we're in heaven? But if we got to heaven in one split thing, it would blow all of our minds. And so it's going to happen in a really slow way, but we're already here right now. It's heaven. And like, get used to it. It feels weird to all of us, but it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, people need to have hope. Like anyone who's black pilling right now, one thing I'll say about that is, even if you don't believe in the Q way of things, at least believe in God's plan, because God comes above everything. And look at prophecy. Prophecy always tells the same outcome: evil, darkness gets brought to light. And there are more good people in the world than there are bad. It just so happens that this 1% in power are evil. But also, you bring about the energy you put out. So if you're thinking about negativity, you're going to manifest that. And we've got enough evil people trying to do that. So just manifest love. Don't be scared. Put your trust in God, because God's got it worked out. And just enjoy the ride. That's all I can say.
Matty Ray, I'm so grateful, and I've loved hanging out, and I find you divinely feminine and masculine, and that's what we're all working toward. And
thank you.
How can
I've loved
people
this
find
chat. TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. It's Matt Ray.
This is awesome. And I totally want to have you back. I'm going to have panel shows where I want to have just a bunch of Q kids on and we geek out about Q. And I want to have a bunch of LGBTQ, whatever kids on, and we geek out about that. And I also have an idea that I want to have a whole bunch of people that fell in love on the internet. So
all right.
I get to have you and your wife on together.
That would be great. I'm really glad we finally did this. This has been really good, and I'd love to come on again.
Oh, awesome. It was so perfect. I feel like I have a new friend.
Sure.
So tell everyone where to find you.
So TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, it's Matt Ray, ITSMATTREY.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And
thank you.
Have a happy holiday. Merry Christmas.
And you, Merry Christmas. God bless. Have a good New Year too if we don't speak before.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So she has been Cheney, and now she's off to smoke a blunt. See you next Tuesday, you fucking cunts. So she has been Cheney, and now she's off to smoke a blunt. See you next Tuesday, you fucking cunts.